Everyone ready? Okay, very good. I'd like to call this February 7th session of the Holyoke City Council to order. The clerk will call the roll and record those members present.
Bartley.
Here.
Bresnahan. Graney.
Here.
Jourdain.
Here.
Leahy.
Present.
LeBrun Martinez. Here. Lisi.
Here.
Lopez.
Here.
McGee.
Here.
McGivern.
Here.
Roman.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Tallman.
Here.
Bacon.
Here.
Valentine. Here.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
And the city of Holyoke. Thank you.
And Rhode Island.
The evening was going to start off with a moment of silence for the New England Patriots.
What?
But
You have little faith?
But thank goodness we will give a very quick moment of silence for the Atlanta Falcons. Almost. It hurts, I know, to be so close, but these things happen. So we wish great congratulations to our New England Patriots. Did us proud all year long. So that was just a wonderful thing. And next up, on official business, we have two items currently laid on the table. One is the appointment of city officers. To wit, we have a water commission appointment.
Second table?
Yep.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to remove item number 1 from the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. As you know, esteemed counselors, at our former meetings, we have filled the administrative assistant, assessors, and Whiting Street Fund member. We had one vacancy for position to be voted on this evening, and that is water commissioner. That is a 3-year term, said term to expire January of 2020.
Motion to go to the first ballot?
Second.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded to go to the first ballot. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. As you will recall, Fran Dwyer was the longtime occupant of the position. He has stepped aside and has decided to retire from that position. The position is now vacant. A number of people expressed interest. The committee reviewed those applications of people that were interested. And I believe, Mr. Chairman, Councilor Leahy, once again, we're ready now at this point to go forward with a vote?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay, wonderful. So we're at first ballot. Is there any discussion? Okay. Therefore, just so we reacclimate everyone as to the process on these, we do vote alphabetically. When your name is called, you will state the name of your candidate. First person receiving 8 votes will be elected the new water commissioner for our wonderful Holyoke Water Works. Okay? All right. Any questions? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Bartley.
Tim Kaine.
Bresnahan. Graney.
Bill Harbalus.
Jourdain.
Tim Keene.
Leahy.
Mr. Timothy Keene.
LeBrun Martinez.
Bill Harbalus.
Lisi.
Harbalus.
Lopez.
Bill Harbalus.
McGee.
Tim Keene.
McGivern.
Tim Keene.
Roman.
Bill Harbalus.
Sullivan.
Tim Keene.
Tallman.
Tim Keene.
Bacon.
Bill Harbalus.
Valentine.
Bill Harbalus.
Tim Keene. 6.
7.
What was that?
7, I think.
7.
7.
It's 7 and 7. Bresnahan's not here.
I have 7.
Well, let's let our clerk, she gets paid the big bucks to do the counting here.
Can I be allowed to vote twice?
Well, we may have a second vote. You may be
Tim
asked.
Keene, 7 votes. Bill Harbalus, 7 votes.
Therefore, esteemed councilors, we do not have a majority. A motion to go to the second
Motion
ballot.
to go to second ballot.
Second.
Okay, very good.
Bartley.
Tim Kaine.
Graney.
Bill Harbalus.
Jourdain.
Bill Harbalus.
Leahy.
Mr. Timothy Keene.
Leahy. I'm sorry,
Timothy Keene.
LeBrun Martinez.
Bill Harbalus.
Thank you.
Lisi.
Tim Keene.
Lopez.
Bill Harbalus.
McGee.
Tim Keene.
McGivern,
Tim Keen.
Roman,
Bill Harbalus.
Sullivan,
Bill Harbalus.
Tallman,
Tim Keen.
Bacon,
Bill Harbalus.
Valentine.
Bill Harbalus.
Tim Keen, 7. Bill Harbalus, 7.
Make a motion to go to the third ballot.
Sure about that?
It's 8 and 6.
I had 8 and 6, but
Yeah, my number count was 8
It's-
for Harbalus.
Yep.
Why don't we read back the Harbalus votes? Because I came up with 8.
Yep.
You're right. Yeah.
Graney, Jordan, LeBron Martinez, Lopez, Roman, Sullivan, Bacon, Valentine.
8.
8.
All right, so Mr. Harbalus having secured 8 votes. Is Mr. Harbalus here, by the way? Oh, yeah, there he is. Congratulations, Bill. Best of luck to you. And tomorrow, if you have a moment, to kindly go over to the clerk's office and get sworn in, and then you can get with Mr. Conti and certainly myself or anybody else on questions on your duties, and just kind of get yourself on board for that. And so congratulations, 2 fine candidates, and the council had two great people to choose from, so we've chosen wisely. Very good. So that concludes that matter. Mr. Harbalus elected on the second ballot. We now have a second item on the agenda, which is from Brenna Murphy McGee, who is our city clerk, as well as Ryan Allen, our administrative assistant. That would happen to be the minutes of January 3rd, 2017. I think we had a table to have additional look or additional amendments. Are we good to go? Has everyone received this? Okay.
Motion to receive and accept.
Okay. Motion has been first to remove from the table. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. A motion's been made and seconded to receive and accept the minutes of January 3rd. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And we now turn to public comment. And somebody took my clipboard of distinguished citizens that would like to speak. If somebody could just bring that up here, please. Thank you.
No, just to bring it over there, but that's okay.
Great. Thank you very much. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's see if we're on the back. Yep, 12.
Motion to suspend the rules and allow more than 7 speakers.
Second.
Okay, so we have 15 people who have signed up to speak. Under the normal rule, it's 7 people for 2 minutes. I would request, under the rule suspension, perhaps 15 for 1 minute. Does that sound reasonable?
So moved.
Okay, so motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to allow all 15 people to speak. Everyone here hails from Holyoke, so we don't need any further rule suspension on that. And kindly limit your remarks to 1 minute. Okay? All in favor of the rule suspension?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Great. And the first person is Jason Ferreira of 6 Taylor Street. Jason, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm just here to speak on meeting point 19D, special permit for solar facility up on Whitney Ave. I just want to encourage the council to vote against the special permit. I don't think it's fit for the neighborhood at all. It's the lot that's being proposed is a really important buffer for that entire neighborhood. It's going to have a really adverse effect on their property values. There's a very strong resident opposition to this proposal, and I think an important point is that what's happening here is we're taking down a conserved area, a place that's trees and whatnot, and basically clear cutting it and putting up solar panels, which I think we all like solar panels, but I don't think that's the best usage. And, as it happens, the state has just put forth new incentives for solar, which encourages, and I'm reading from a newspaper article, encourages solar to be put on rooftops, brownfield, landfills, or solar canopies. The subsidy would decrease if it's built on open space. So I think the trend really is against this type of development, even though we all really like solar. I think we're really looking for a rooftop type of development, which certainly our city is in good position for. So I just encourage you to vote against that proposal. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Jason. Good to see you. Next speaker is Catherine Simon of 97 Locust Street. Catherine, welcome.
Hi. I've lived in Holyoke for 7 years, and I'm a patient at the methadone clinic in Providence here. And I'm here to speak on the legislation to rezone methadone clinics and perhaps Suboxone prescribers, if that's not entirely clear. So I just want to point out that I'm not posing a danger to you here or to churches or children by speaking, and nor do I pose such a danger when I go to get my dose every morning. The only empirical facts relevant to bring up in this debate is to bring up that all the public health stats show that opiate substitution treatment is the most effective one for opiate addiction, which means that the only reason that this law is being proposed is a NIMBY-esque attempt to discourage the establishment of new methadone clinics. And I hear some counselors have actually blatantly stated that. In doing so, you would be acting against the interests of your own constituents. With the opiate epidemic the way it is, a huge number of your constituents are either drug users or people in treatment or have friends and loved ones who are. As the country has learned over decades, as Holyoke itself has learned over decades, you can't arrest yourself out of this problem. What you do by limiting treatment, you don't get rid of drugs in Holyoke, you just make conditions entirely inhumane. I've heard that counselors have stated that there is, quote, enough treatment in Holyoke with the Providence facility. I'm a patient at that facility. Sometimes I spend 2 hours every day going back and forth to the out-of-the-way clinic on the edge of town on Mass Health contracted carpool transportation. Even with the addition of a 4th dosing window, the line can make for an hour wait on busy days. I waited for 6 weeks to gain entry into that clinic, and that was after spending 2 weeks trying to get into the detox upstairs, calling every hour on the hour for a bed. As the opiate epidemic continues, I'm sure the waits for patients attempting to gain admission now will be even longer. I did all this, and I do all this because my treatment is important to me. But in no other branch of medicine, especially when the stakes are life and death, would these kinds of conditions be called, quote, enough treatment. It is not enough treatment for those not lucky enough to get one of the few spots at Providence in time to be left to despair and death from overdose from fentanyl-contaminated heroin, or eventual death from contracting HIV and or Hep C. Perhaps the idea behind this proposed legislation is that drug users, people in treatment, and all the people who love them don't have a political voice. I'm here to say we do.
Thank you, Catherine. Next up, we have Adam Grabowski, who states he lives at 155 Mountain View Drive. He has in parentheses Ward 6, but we know that's Ward 7. But notwithstanding that, Adam, we welcome you.
Yeah, I figured that out about half an hour later. So, yes, I live at Ward 7A. I just want to say this is in reference to a Mass Live article that I read within the past week or so regarding the council's looking into exactly what specifics the president's threat of sanctuary cities will have. And I want to say that I find it appalling that Holyoke would be in this position, and I'm proud that Holyoke is a sanctuary city, and I do applaud the city council for asking for specifics on what is at stake. And I think that federal funding that has been identified and is being threatened will improve the city and cannot and should not be let go without a fight. That's what's at stake from a fiduciary point of view. But there's something else at stake. How Holyoke is viewed and how it views itself. I'm a parent with 2 children in the public school system, and I can say that already our president's words are having an effect on the children of this city, people of color or otherwise. And I think this is a moment for the city council to see this as beyond a fiduciary threat and for what it is. It's the acts of a strongman government and racism. Holyoke has a large Latinx population, and to talk about this or to focus on this as exclusively a fiduciary issue it's a slap in the face to the city of Holyoke, the entire city of Holyoke. And I encourage Holyoke, the city council, and the mayor's office too, to see this as beyond a fiduciary issue and have the courage and creativity in your elected position to further look into us and stand up and take the model that we've seen in Boston and other cities and say that there's something that's not right with this. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Next up is Price Armstrong of 57 Park Slope. Price, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I want to second what Adam said. I'm here to talk about sanctuary cities, which I understand there are a couple of orders on the agenda tonight to discuss. Basically, my thoughts are the feds may want to squander our resources, our federal resources, breaking up families, but I pay property taxes to the city of Holyoke, and I don't want to see my property taxes persecuting those whose only crime is pursuing a better life. I'm going to say that again, because repetition, you can remember it more easily. Don't waste my tax dollars ruining the lives of our neighbors who just want to contribute to our economy, our society, and make Holyoke a better place to live. So I fully understand the threat of losing federal funding is daunting. I get that. But I urge you that history will judge us by how we act in these powerful times. I, for one, want to be remembered for our courage and our compassion, and not for caving. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Price. Next up is Ed Miles of 232 Lower Westfield Road. Ed, good to see you again.
Good to see you. I'm here to discuss the solar panels as well. My concern is I moved up to Blueberry Hill in '78 when the only industry there was Atlas Copco. And as the mall came in and the development of everything going on from the hotel, etc., the noise from 91 prevented me from leaving my windows, which are facing east, open at night. Now, with the development of Balboa and all of the things that are going on down there, I can't leave my windows open, which face south toward the turnpike. I get the noise all night long, so I have central air now. My concern is if all these trees are cut down for the solar panels, that may impact the noise enough through the windows, not being able to stop that noise. So we've got a property value issue. I've got the noise pollution issue, and taking those trees down is also going to affect a microenvironment in that area with the trees being able to cool the area, etc. So I would hope that we could stop doing these things to this area, particularly this location of Ward 5, and give us a break and help prevent, help take care of our lost it. I'm doing good. Quality. Thank you. Quality of life. Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you, Ed. Next up is John Gaughan of 12 Richard Eager Drive. John?
I'm also against the solar panels.
Come up to the mic, John. Yeah. Because it's, we have to remember these meetings are televised, so the people at home want to hear what you have to say.
I just also wanted to agree with the opposing crowd here against the solar panels, but my points have already been covered by the previous two speakers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Next up is Sarah Olicker of 75 Evergreen Drive. Sarah, welcome.
Good evening. Tonight you intend to debate an order which, as currently written, restricts medication-assisted addiction treatment programs almost entirely out of Holyoke. In Ordinance Committee hearings, councilors have made unsupported claims about imagined risks of these programs, despite research that shows the high efficacy and safety of medication-assisted treatment. Where is the evidence of these claims? Councilors have disregarded feedback from Holyoke Planning Board, and to my knowledge, though that may have changed, have not sent their revised order for further review by the board. Why hasn't further feedback been sought? Will it be? It's unclear whether the council has sought advice from the city's attorneys about the risk that Holyoke could be sued over these restrictions. Why not? And again, maybe it's changed. What does legal say about the risks associated with harassing a planned treatment facility out of town while blocking future programs? Massachusetts needs more drug treatment capacity. Holyoke needs more drug treatment capacity. We have an epidemic. What will City Council say to those who have lost parents, children, colleagues, and neighbors to drug addiction about their efforts to block drug treatment rather than expanding it in the city? Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's see. It looks like the next person is Victor Goulet. I apologize if I butchered your name. 15 Gary Drive. Nobody?
No, he's saying no. He's
Passing.
passing.
All right. Moving right along. Kathy, I hope that's Kathy. Kurzik. Welcome, Kathy. 8 Richard Eager Drive. Kathy, we'd love to hear from you.
I too am against the solar panels. I've lived there for 22 years. Beautiful area. We've already had enough trees cut down when they built the new houses. I can hear 91. I'm not against solar, but please don't cut down any more trees in our beautiful neighborhood. That's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Next up is certainly no stranger to this room, Gabriel Quaglia of 13 Harrison Avenue. Gabriel, welcome again.
Hi, I've come here tonight to implore you all to vote down the proposed methadone ordinance. It will prevent opening new clinics which are needed to help the suffering amongst us. It will also open up the city to litigation, which nobody likes. I've heard it said in this body that we have ample methadone and Suboxone services in our city, despite the fact that providers and doctors have all stated that there is great need. As someone who spends 40 hours a week working with Holyoke residents who are literally dying, waiting to get into treatment, I want to implore you again to please vote down this methadone ordinance. They're people's sons and daughters, people's spouses, people's parents, and they're dying here in Holyoke, sometimes in the street without a second thought. And, just to end, in reference to this and to other ordinances that are, on the agenda tonight, I just want to remember the words of Matthew. Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not take me in. I was naked, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not visit me. Then they all also answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or stranger or naked or sick or in prison and did not serve you? He will answer, truly I will say to you, as you didn't do it for me, or as you did it not for one of the least of you, you did it not for me. And I want to thank you all for hearing me tonight.
All right. Thank you, Gabriel. Gerardo Ramos, who definitely is from Ward 6. He lives at 275 Sargent Street. And we would love to hear from Gerardo. Welcome. Good to see you again, sir.
I'm here because of the medical cannabis.
Yes.
All right. I'm a little concerned about the jobs that need to be, brought to Holyoke. There's a lot of people who can grow cannabis in Holyoke, and they want to work on it. I'm also worried about in the future when the law is drafted about recreational cannabis, and I would like to have you guys look into that. So like that, there's more opportunities for the city of Holyoke and people from the city of Holyoke, not just one place that people are going to get the cannabis. There's got to be more opportunity for people. That is my concern.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for coming to see us. Next up is Peter. Peter, I'm sorry I can't make out your handwriting. Vedens, perhaps, of 244 Wood Street.
Mr. President, I'm not a...
Peter!
Yes.
Okay, do I have to get special permission for Peter to speak? He's a non-Holyoke resident.
Motion to suspend the rules to allow Peter to speak.
Second. Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Peter, welcome from
Thank
Chicago.
Yes.
We welcome you.
My name is Pete Cadens. I'm the CEO of GTI, which is a medical marijuana company headquartered out of Chicago. We have submitted a special use permit proposal for your review. I just want to say that our goal is undoubtedly to create jobs here, and hopefully lots of them. We see this process as having three winners. One is the patients, first and foremost. Two are the communities that sponsor these facilities, and 3 is an organization like ours who wins the license. But it should be an extraordinarily symbiotic relationship where all of us can win. I've had the good chance to meet a number of you. Councilor Roman and I had an excellent meeting earlier today. I expressed to him that I did regret the tone of email correspondence that I'd had with him. I send emails like that to my wife every once in a while, and I catch some flack for that as well. But I expressed that that was probably not the most professional way to express my thoughts and feelings. But I'm here tonight to tell you that I'm genuinely interested in sponsoring a lot of jobs here in the Holyoke community. We're going to work in partnership with you all to make good things happen, in partnership, like the last gentleman said, to create good jobs, high-paying jobs, minimum $14 an hour plus benefits. And we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say on our special use permit proposal.
Great. Thank you, Peter. It was good to see you again. Next up is Mimi Panich of 134 Madison Avenue. Mimi, good to see you.
Thank you very much. I'm here basically to make a technical point about the methadone ordinance, and I hope to be brief with it. The definition as the draft stands is very broadly drafted, and I understand that in Massachusetts, private physicians can and do prescribe Suboxone treatment out of their own offices. As drafted, the ordinance would sweep them up within the definition of methadone clinics and strictly regulate them. Obviously, this isn't a problem for existing private physicians. They'll be grandfathered. But should, for instance, Holyoke Medical Center want to reconfigure its footprint, bring in new primary care or family medicine practices, have satellite offices downtown but not in IG, they would be then faced with either restrictions on what those physicians in their best judgment could do for their patients, or just not be able to go there. And I think that's a very bad precedent for us to set. It may not even be possible under Massachusetts law, and I would think simple drafting changes could take care of it. And I hope you will consider doing so if you're going to pass this. Thank you very much, and I will take my last sentence to switch topics and thank Councillor Vacon for her work in getting the special permit ordinance through that allows you all to regulate those solar panels. I am grateful. I know a lot of the city is grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mimi. We appreciate that. Next up is certainly, again, another person who's no stranger to this room, Juan Sanchez. Welcome, Juan, who hails from 10 Gatehouse Road. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, councilors. I'm here to speak on one topic in specific. It's regarding GTI Massachusetts, the marijuana facility that I believe is in front of you guys now to be approved today to locate here in the city. I'd asked the councilors to investigate the company itself a little more, kind of do some more research before approving this association. I believe that the process should be more open, as Geraldo, who had spoken before me, had said. I believe it should be more open to other people who may want to create entrepreneurship opportunities within this process. But on top of that, I also have a few questions that I'd like to ask Mr. Cadence and hopefully have the city council look into on behalf of myself and other residents of Ward 1, where he does want to locate his facility. So he did answer one of them, which was the funds as well as the benefits. So $14 an hour plus benefits was one of the questions I had. The other question I had is, why are they listed as a nonprofit, considering they have 4 locations, are able to pay that fee, and have certain staff? For example, their chief security officer, upon my research, is the former chief of police of Washington, D.C., and the former sergeant-in-arms of the U.S. Congress. To me, that tells me that this person is probably making a huge income, as opposed to... Okay, well, I wasn't sure about that. But, even then, what kind of profit are they actually paying themselves as opposed to their employees? And also, in fear of things looming, such as the governor's cuts on housing vouchers and things of that nature, I'm also concerned with the kind of funds that people are getting paid and whether or not those funds are going to be enough to actually be able to have people afford to be able to pay their rents and afford to stay in their apartments, considering that the governor's cuts did go through 2 weeks ago. So just different questions that I had about the company, things of that nature. And when... and how many employees are they going to hire? So that's the question. You can say a lot, what does that mean? That's just, that could be a lot to you. It doesn't mean the same to me or to other people in the city, right? So I'd like to, certain number before approving this place so we can know, are you creating 100 jobs? Is it going to be 5 jobs? How much are you doing? So with that said, I'd ask that, we postpone this approval until you ask more questions, look into the company more, what kind of money are they actually making, and could they afford to pay residents more and do a better deal for the citizens of Holyoke in the long term? Thank you.
We'll be having a public hearing. It's coming in for the first instance. I assume it'll go to ordinance, and we'll take it there, and we'll get to the all very good questions. We'll get to the bottom of all those. Next speaker up is David Yass of 20 Sydney Avenue. David, always good to see you. Welcome.
Likewise. Good evening. I can be very brief because you've already got my written comments here in this newspaper. You've all got a copy of it. But my topic, I'm very disappointed not to see on the agenda, is some sort of appropriation to bring Engine 2 back online. I think it's just unconscionable after we've had a couple gentlemen in here at previous meetings describe the really horrific scene at the New Year's Day fire because they arrived there shorthanded. I think obviously in the long term it's going to involve, for the funding for this is going to involve straightening out our priorities within the fire department, having it less top heavy. It's going to involve some difficult negotiations, and also our priorities in the city overall. I mean, public safety has to be our top priority. And we've had people talking here about kind of justice issues, immigration, methadone clinics, and I think this is also a social justice issue because this affects people in Ward 1, which both the type of structures they have there are most vulnerable to fire, and they also have the least political influence. So I'm asking, please, that we get some funding, even if it has to come out of the stabilization fund as a stopgap to get Engine 2 back online. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, David. So that concludes our public comment period. All very good, thoughtful commentary. We appreciate all of that.
Mr. President, since we have so many people here in regards to the solar panel, can we take out of order reports of committees? Item 19, I believe it's D.
Second. That's right. Okay, sure. So a motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to go to item 19D relative to the ground-based solar proposal in Ward 5. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay. The Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred a special permit application for a solar facility by SHR Energy Management, LLC, off of Whitney Avenue at map 176, parcel 3, have considered the same, recommend that the application be denied. Councilors Vacan, Lisi, Jourdain, Bartley, and Lopez.
Motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report. Under discussion, Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be brief because I don't think I can explain it any more clearly than the residents already have. But I would just like to add that at our public hearing, we were presented with a petition with over 160 names of Holyoke residents on it in opposition to this special permit. And as the committee heard all of the varying testimony, it was decided by the committee to recommend denial of the permit because the detriments of the project were found to outweigh the benefits. Thank you.
So under that point, is there an amendment to create, I always think it's good form to make sure that we state reasons for the denial, right. And that is, one, that it is of greater detriment to the neighborhood than it is of benefit, and secondly, I believe the committee discussed that this was not the highest and best use of the property as well.
So I would offer as an amendment my earlier comment relative to the detriments exceed the benefits, and also that it was not found to be the highest and best use.
Which was, the use was residential. There used to be a home on the property, I believe.
Correct. The zoning is residential.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a second to add those as two of the reasons, as the reasons for denial? Okay. All in favor of that amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Continuing under discussion, you've heard from the chair. Is there any thoughts or additional discussion? Okay. Councilor Bartley, or are you just positioning your chair? Okay, very good. Okay. Without further ado, then, this will be by a roll call vote, as we do for all special permits. As you will recall, this does require 2/3 vote in the affirmative to adopt the special permit. I want to remind you that in this instance, the committee has recommended denial. Therefore, a yes vote is in fact denying the permit. Just want to be clear on that. A no vote is to approve the permit, okay? So a yes vote is to deny the permit. A no vote is to approve the permit. There's no further discussion. The clerk will call the roll.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jourdain?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
By your unanimous vote, you have denied. And that takes care of that item.
Mr. President?
Councilor
Go ahead.
No.
Okay,
You
Councilor.
spoke first. Go
All right, Councilor McGee. I got to pick one.
Go out of order. Take up number 5, please.
Sure.
Second.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to go to item number 5 relative to the school department. Okay. Item number 5. All in favor of suspending the rules to go to item number 5?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 5 is a communication from the mayor. On behalf of the school department and the chair of the school committee, please accept this correspondence regarding a vote to submit a statement of interest with the Massachusetts Building Authority. The attached memo from Dr. Zweig explains the need for City Council approval to submit these letters. Although this statement of interest letters in no way commits the city to fund any of these projects, the deadline to submit is on February 17th. With that in mind, I respectfully request taking the opportunity to vote on these letters tonight in an effort to adhere to the deadline. As always, I appreciate your consideration and your work on behalf of the citizens of Holyoke. Sincerely yours, Mayor Alex Morse. It should be noted that there is a statement of support, one page, in support of this. Do you want me to read that real quick? Yep. Okay. This is from Dr. Zweig. To the Holyoke City Council, statements of interest with the Massachusetts School Building Authority dated February 3rd, 2017. As the City Council is aware, the Superintendent of Schools is required to annually submit a statement of interest for accelerated repairs with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. The application for funding with the MSBA, the SOI is the first form which needs to be completed for districts who are contemplating filing an application for funding with the MSBA. Submission of an SOI in no way commits the city to fund any of these projects. Its only purpose is to identify perceived deficiencies within a school facility and is not an application for funding. The MSBA requires an annual vote from both the school committee receiver and the city council before we can submit the SOI by the deadline of February 17th, 2017. In addition, the vote is required to be in the form of the attached language. Therefore, we are respectfully requesting the City Council vote to authorize the SOIs for Donahue, Morgan, Sullivan, and Kelly schools. Our SOIs are for windows and boilers at Kelly, a roof at Donahue, roof and windows at Sullivan, and windows at Morgan. The district believes that the improvements are needed in order to maintain the buildings that we expect to remain in our portfolio for many years to come. Even though we are in the process of making an application to the MSBA for new facilities, the MSBA has encouraged us to demonstrate a continued commitment to capital needs of school facilities in Holyoke. Thank you as always for your support. Sincerely, Stephen Zweig, Receiver. And attached thereto is a vote of SOI for each of the 4 different schools that were mentioned prior. That is before the body at this time, and I would ask for a motion from the chairman.
Before the motion, also suspend the rules to allow Mr. Soto and Mr. Anderson to answer any questions that we might have.
Second.
They're here from the school department
Okay, very
to
good.
help.
Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to allow Mr. Soto and Mr. Anderson from the school department to address the city council as needed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Councilor Leahy.
I know you probably said that, but you said a lot. Is there any reason why we're doing this now and not in committee?
Yes, due to the February 17th deadline.
Yeah, it seems like we run on this a lot with the school department, don't we? It's always the last minute type of thing, and now we come into a city council meeting and...
Yes, that is true. You're absolutely right. On the other hand, I will say that these are non-controversial. These are simply saying that we're still interested in doing these 4 projects. And this doesn't commit them to anything. It doesn't commit us to anything. This just simply says, we've got these in the hopper. Please keep them in the hopper for another year. We'd like their approval.
Maybe we should just let them know that they need to develop better time management skills.
Okay. Mr. President. Gentlemen, you've heard that. Councilor Roman?
Yes, and to my colleague's point, I would like to say that the receiver has, in fact, and did reach out to me as chairman of the Joint Committee of the School Committee and City Council, but we haven't met in 2 months. And so I will also give credit to Councilor Soto, I lied, Anthony Soto, the CFO of the school department, who did reach out and did ask and inquire about kicking this around in the Joint Committee of the School Committee and City Council. But they're in transition and have a new chairman. Former chairman on the school committee side, John Brunel, stepped down, and now it is Ward 3 school committee member Dennis Burks, who's now the co-chairman. So I apologize. From my committee's perspective, I know that you've been trying to have us meet to discuss this before sending it to finance. So I just wanted to share that with my colleagues.
Thank you.
So it's going to finance?
No.
You get a vote tonight.
Oh, sorry.
The proposal is going to be to vote. I think you're going to hear from the chairman in a minute of finance to vote on that. But just Councilor Graney?
Yeah, just to make a long story short, this is just a request to get funding for these improvements, correct?
That's right.
Right, that's all.
Let's do it then.
Councilor McGee.
Just to Anthony Soto and Mr. Anderson, if you want to explain a little bit about the process and why it comes this way. Once again, we all understand there's no commitment to it, but the process that leads us to this.
So the process is the MSBA, thank you. The MSBA opened up the application process on January 6th, and Whitney and my team have been working diligently on putting together a capital needs plan. And tonight we wanted to bring it to your attention that these were the four of the most highest priority projects that we wanted to submit as part of the accelerated repair program. But I do want to also reiterate that it is a very small window that they allow you to apply for these projects, and they opened it up on January 6th. So tonight we don't commit to funding. It's just really giving us permission to participate in that program. They may deny every single request that we ask, or they may just approve 1 or 2, and at that point we'd come back with more information.
Into committee.
Yes.
Okay.
Because these haven't been bonded for.
No.
Right. So you would have to have a subsequent vote in the future, a bond request from the mayor, come before the council, go to finance, seek your approval, give you all the juicy details.
You mean the proper way?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is strictly to get SBA approval.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay,
But
all right.
Yeah, this has happened before. In essence, they open it up and you get a short time frame. You run around, you try and figure out what your projects are going to be. They throw them together in order to try and get within there. In here, they're just saying these are 4 projects they're looking to do. No commitment, but once again, we might not even get approval. We might. Which then is, the next process is they come back and say, we're only going to do Kelly School for you, and Kelly's a windows and boilers. We're going to need $400,000. Now I got to figure out how to fund it, whether it's through a bond or something else. That will go to committee. This is just merely getting the application going. We've seen it this way before. It's not the greatest process, but this is the MSBA. I mean, I didn't set them up.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Councilor Lopez.
Anthony, can you go over how much percent are we going to get back if we get funded?
80%.
Okay. Thank you.
We just did 2 MSBA projects over the summer. We put a boiler in Morgan School and a boiler in Ian White, and the city only had to come up with 20% of the total cost of that project.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Okay, very good. All right, then.
Make a motion to receive and adopt.
Yeah, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt and approve all 4 of the SOIs for these 4 respective projects. That's now before the body. Any final thoughts, comments, questions? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of all 4 SOIs. A no vote is to deny all 4.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
By your vote, you have approved all 4 of the SOIs. And gentlemen, we thank you for coming to see us.
Mr. President, there's 2 other topics that were brought up during public comments out of courtesy for folks that came in.
Yep.
One was the sanctuary city topic, which is items 43 and 44, and the other one is 19A, which is the methadone Suboxone clinic.
Okay, sure.
We could
Why don't
take
you want to do
those out of
sanctuary
order?
city first?
Sure.
Okay. So let's see. What were those 2?
43 and 44.
43 and 44. Great. Okay. Motion on the floor is to suspend our rules to go to items 43 and 44. Take them as a package too? Is that
Sure.
Yeah. Motion on the floor is to suspend the rules, go to items 43 and 44, and to take them up as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, let me read these. 43, introduced by Councilor Jordan and Councilor Vacan. Ordered that the law department render a legal opinion to determine if Holyoke could be or already is classified as a sanctuary city. Do current policies of Mayor Morse's administration rise to the level that it could deem Holyoke with this status? Secondly, please provide a list gathered from the department heads of all federal grants and funding that the city currently receives by the name of source, name of the department impacted, and amount. In the event that Holyoke policies cause us to be deemed a sanctuary city, we need to be aware of the potential financial impact to the city of these policies in light of new executive orders on this topic being created at the federal level. So that's item 43. And then 44, introduced by Councilor Jordan, ordered that the Holyoke Police Chief and the Law Department report to the City Council if the Holyoke Police Department is fully compliant with 8 U.S.C. 1373. If not, how so and why? So that is the 2 on the 2 on this, and I would ask for a
Receive
rule.
and refer to legal?
Yeah, receive, adopt, refer to the Law Department and the Police Chief.
The copy.
Okay. Yeah, to the Law Department.
Receive and referred.
Yeah, receive and refer to the Law Department, and well, we actually have to adopt the order. We can only refer to committees. Anything that goes external to the body, we have to receive. It's a semantic. Receive, adopt, and refer to the Law Department and the Police Chief to ask them to do these things and get us this information.
It's not going to go to committee at all for discussion?
Oh, absolutely. I would assume that once we get those reports, we should send a copy of this to one of the committees too. I would say finance.
Sure. So can I...
with copies to finance of the report, because we're looking for them to give us the information, give us a legal opinion, and then we can take further action once in committee, once we find out what the answers are.
So...
Yes. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess, I mean, I'm not comfortable with the word adopt because it seems...
Well, that's just what we do
well,
here.
I'm just sharing my opinion. So if it's going to go to finance, then I would just do an amendment that it's just receive and refer to finance with a copy to the Law Department.
And the police chief.
And the police chief, and then that
That's
accomplishes...
fine. I mean, you can do that as well.
Second.
Okay. Either... Oh, that's true. Yeah. Technically, the charter states that the council can request legal opinions, but we do actually, the clerk is correct, have to adopt an order requesting the legal opinion. I mean, this is the way we've been doing it for a million years.
Sure.
All you're asking for is a legal opinion. You're not making a commentary one way or the other on is this good, bad, or others. Otherwise, we're not taking any action by asking the question. So... I will say, just informationally, I happened to present a number of these questions to the police chief, and I asked him, since the order went in from the mayor in November 2014, how many people have been impacted by this? Like, how many are in civil detainers that have or have not been turned over to ICE or not turned over to ICE? And the answer was 0. So this has affected all of 0 people. So just so we're all crystal clear about that. And now the question is, 0 people impacted on this side. Now the other question is, what amount of money? We've heard one number from the auditor, as much as $19 million. It should be pointed out, though, that in the executive order that the president came out, he is limited that any federal aid that is given to the city as a matter of law, the president of the United States could not take that away. However, aid that is discretionary, potentially, yes, he could. So, we need to get into what is discretionary. We get some grants that we competitively go for that other communities around the country are going for. We need to find out, would some of those things be impacted? But once we get all that information and we know the impact, and I think people need to understand what 8 U.S.C. 1373 requires, what that law is, what it is not, and then the chief of police feels that he is complying with it, but we'll have him and the law department review it to make sure that they are. So,
Can I ask
there's a lot more common ground potentially on this than is there. But yes, Councilor Valentin.
Well, thank you for saying that about common ground. The question that I have is regarding the piece about providing a list gathered from department heads. I'm wondering, would it make more sense to have Bellamy do that? I wouldn't want to impose. He already had some of that, I just wouldn't want to give extra work to the law department if they don't need.
How about we refer to auditor too?
Sure.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, Bellamy's already completed that list, and I've sent it to all the councilors, except for the one person that doesn't have email.
Whoever that person is.
Whoever that one person is.
Never will.
And, so, right now, it's interesting because I'm getting a lot of phone calls, and the reason I asked Bellamy, I actually asked the assistant treasurer, and she was extremely helpful. And Bellamy was out until Tuesday, so Bellamy compiled that list very quickly of all the monies that the city of Holyoke receives federally. We all have this big blue thud book on our desk tonight that is comprised of federal funds. It's very interesting because I think that it's a good question that was proposed to me to ask on behalf of my constituents, and I love the fact I'm getting bashed left and right on social media because I asked this. And a lot of the people are sitting in the audience right now staring at me, which is great because my job is to ask tough questions. Quite frankly, this is not even a tough question. But when it comes to time that certain monies could be lost, well, that's something we all want to know. I don't think anybody in this room is going to say we don't want to know exactly how much money we potentially could lose. And if that's the case, that's just malpractice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Councilor McGee.
Just one question, because the treasurer was mentioned. Can we ask about bonding? Does it impact bonding at all?
In what way?
I don't know. We're going to come around the corner to a lot of bonding requests. I don't know if it does or does not have an impact.
If we were on a subsidized loan of some form?
Well, if we go to bond, does it have an impact on our bonding at all? Well, housing authorities and everything else. I don't know, Kevin. Knowing that there's so much bonding,
we really have to plumb in to get all the answers to these questions, right?
That's all since it's here, if we want to amend it and stuff like that.
Send to the treasurer as well?
We're already going to the auditor, you're going to legal, you're going to police, you might as well ask the treasurer and anyone else. Just, get it all out.
Sure, why not? Councilor Bacon. Okay. That one, yes, definitely. I think both of the reports to the City Council. The second one, 44, I think we could just do a receive and refer because it doesn't ask for a legal opinion. 43 actually asks for the legal opinion. So for 43, I'm going to recognize the motion as receive, adopt, and refer to the law department and police chief, as well as the auditor, treasurer, those four. And 44... We can do just simply receive, refer to finance with a copy to the law department and the chief of police.
Mr. President?
That's where I was thinking we were going to go with this. Just one second, are you all set? Okay, Councilor Graney.
Just quickly, we're going to get a mini course on 8 U.S.C. 1373 too?
Probably. To understand the issue, I think...
Because it doesn't say that.
Correct. Basically, that speaks to obligations in law to report civil detainers and report information to ICE and these different, there's laws on this. And what I would ask is the esteemed legal department to condense this in something that's a executive summary, if you will, or a legal opinion to kind of go through these different points.
So it does have to go to legal?
Absolutely. But she's going to, in her legal opinion, she's going to get into, I would assume, all of these points in the legal opinion. But the question here in 44 is, are we compliant? Bottom line, in her opinion. So, police chief says he feels he is. We'll see if the law department agrees. Hopefully, yes. We want everybody to be compliant with the law. Councilor Bresnahan.
Thank you. Mr. President, I just want to, this is just my opinion, and I'm assuming other people's opinion. I'm just real surprised that, you know, where the city of Holyoke does not have controls of its schools. We don't have enough firefighters, and we're gonna get into a contest with the federal government about whether or not we're going to receive millions of dollars. Is this really where a town of 40,000 people wants to be? We all want to be inclusive. We all want to love each other. We're all humans. We've accepted that. We've done more of this type of talk than I can even think about. And it's like, in my opinion, it's just a matter, mayor had an opportunity to grandstand, say we're a sanctuary city. The chief of police, in both of his articles that he was reported speaking on, said this is not an issue. This is not an issue. The mayor could have called up the chief of police and said, hey, chief, you know, if there's any issues going on, but instead he makes public, stands on his soapbox, makes this a big deal for national, you know, to be a national celebrity. This is not issues that we need to face in here. We need to get controls of our schools. We need to make sure that Ward 1 has enough. 3 firefighters went into a building of 30 units. By the grace of God, they walked out of there alive. And we're going to talk about sanctuary cities and risk losing federal funds? This is just, it's mind-boggling that we're having this discussion. You know, I mean, I hope that, I don't see any other community having this discussion. Our neighbors in Chicopee, West Springfield, Long Meadow, where are they? Boston? That's it, really. Nobody else is going on. Northampton, does anyone in the financial problems?
Hold on.
What other community has the financial problems the city of Holyoke has? We are in receivership of our schools. You know what that means? If they're taking the schools, they're going to come after the rest of the city. And then we're going to be like in Springfield with a financial board. We have serious financial problems, and we're talking about a sanctuary city where the chief of the police, a veteran officer of 20 years, is telling us this is not an issue for us. But we decide to grandstand about sanctuary cities. Let's talk about schools. Let's talk about getting fire departments down into the lower wards. As the gentleman, David Goss, spoke about earlier, the folks that have no voice. Again, 3 firefighters went into a building of 30 units. They ran out of water. And we didn't have enough people to get there because we're down 16 firefighters in the city of Holyoke. That's what we should be discussing. Not sanctuary cities when the people that are in charge of it, the police chief, is telling us it's not an issue. Let's get back to what Holyoke needs. We need our schools. We need money. We need taxes. Sanctuary city, let's figure that out when we're all figured out with our schools and our fire departments and all the other problems that the city of Holyoke has. That's when we start talking about sanctuary cities, not now.
Okay. Thank you. Any other thoughts, comments? All right. So just a friendly reminder as to what the motion is on the floor.
President?
Oh, Councilor Graining.
I just want to say I agree with Councilor Bresnahan.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And Councilor Lisi.
Thanks. Just because it's been brought up a couple times already this evening, I just want to note that when I'm looking at the city budget for the fire department in the past year, we fully funded the request. So good. We fully funded the request. And I just want that to go noted when we keep on talking about how we can't do this and we can't do that related to the fire department. We fully funded the request that's out there. Thank you.
That is a good point to make, and I tried to touch on that in the last President's report, is that the City Council has fully funded the Holyoke Fire Department, and there's a lot of talk about we among the elected leadership, but you know, the we part on this side of City Hall has fully funded it. Councilor Bresnahan.
And I agree. I didn't want to point any names out, but the mayor cut 10 firefighters right out of the gate from 88 to 78, and then 6 firefighters left, and that money was transferred by the fire chief and approved by the mayor. So we're down 16 firefighters in the city of Holyoke. And Ward 2 and Ward 1 counselors, D'Estato stood up the other day talking about, and I know you are, Nelson, I would be up in arms because you know what? It's your ward and it's Gladys's ward that's not getting the public safety that they deserve and they have a right to. But that's, and again, I agree, Councilor Lisi, it's not, we funded the fire department. Yes, we didn't cut it. 10 were cut by the mayor, and then 6 retired. That money, that $219,000 was transferred either to overtime, to somebody's salary, if you look at it closely, and it was signed off because it was not, we didn't need to approve that transfer. Went from the chief to the mayor, and now that $211,000 of 6 firefighters are gone.
Okay. All set? All right. So just, again, a friendly reminder that the motion on the floor for 43 is receive, adopt, refer to the law department, the police chief, the treasurer, and the auditor. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. 44, the motion on the floor was to receive and refer to the finance committee with a copy to the police chief and the law department. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So that takes care of
Mr. President, can we suspend the necessary rules and take late file B and C, please?
Okay. Well, hold on. Councilor Valentin did have, there was one other item relative to methadone.
The 19A.
19A? Is that
19B and C relate to other questions that I had wanted to pose to the police department and also to the legal department.
Also, it's on the sanctuary city issue?
Yes.
Okay.
I can wait. That's fine.
All right. So why don't, since we'll stay with that topic, that's a good idea. Yeah. So late file B and C? Okay. Thank you. So, motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to go to late files B and C introduced by Councilor Lisi. I will read them now. Introduced by Councilor Lisi. Ordered that, 1, this is late file B. The Holyoke Law Department submit a brief regarding U.S. Supreme Court ruling Federation of Independent Businesses versus Sebelius. The justices agreed in that decision there was coercion and that the federal government doesn't have limitless authority to withhold non-germane funds that don't have anything to do with the policy in question. Okay, so that's B. C is, also from Councilor Lisi, the police chief report on 1, the impact of the loss of federal grants related to smart policing, the Edward J. Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program, on the city's current police budget and practices. 2, if complying with 8 U.S.C. 1373 will sow fear and resentment toward police among the Latino community, with the outcome being that some might stop reporting crimes. 3, if the city receives and will receive funds to compensate for the extra staffing and or administrative needs that would need to be associated with compliance of 8 U.S.C. 1373, and 4, whether state and or local court and prison systems receive or will receive additional federal funds to compensate for the increased workload associated with the compliance of 8 U.S.C. 1373.
So since I'm looking for legal opinion on item late file B, I'd like to receive, adopt, and refer to the legal department for that opinion. Okay. I think
so. The motion on the floor is 1. We're going to have to receive and suspend the rules to allow final action on.
It's not already suspension of the rules for going to late file.
No, we're going to have to. We just moved the order so that you're not an hour and a half from now. So we took the suspension of the rules would be that to actually take up final action, because under the rules we have, as you know, we can only refer to committees. So all in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, so the motion, as I understand it from Councilor Lisi, is to receive, adopt, refer to the law department.
Yep.
Okay. I don't think this really requires a legal opinion. I think you're just looking for a copy of the decision. That's what this says, right?
Well, and also how,
Submit
I mean,
a brief.
in light of your order, you're looking for a legal department decision, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yes, a decision on whether or not, we are defined as a sanctuary city, and so I'd like to know how extortion would be defined and whether or not the proposals of cutting federal funds from our city budget, if we retain that title, would be considered extortion of some sort.
Okay. Interesting. Extortion, I think you use the word coercion. Extortion is something I believe is a felony, but coercion is what you mean, right? You use the word coercion. Okay. So, all right. So, motion on the floor is to receive, adopt, and refer to the law department to take a look at this FIB case versus Sebelius. It was a fairly fairly famous case, actually. So anyways, any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Now late file C, which is the one I read, which is looking for the police chief to report on all those different elements.
Yeah, so just receive and refer to the police department, or rather, let's receive and refer to finance with a copy to the police department, since the other orders are going to finance.
Okay. So motion on the floor is to receive, refer to finance with a copy to the police chief.
And under discussion.
Under discussion, Councilor Lisi.
Yeah, I think that if we're going to find out, what kind of funds we may be losing, how much funding do we need locally to come into compliance with 8 U.S.C. 1373.
Right. One thing, can I just ask a clarifying question? One is, if we know the number of people involved is 0, and he's told us that, then I'm trying to gather what more would we need to know as to how much it would cost to enforce it.
Mr. President, are we debating?
No, I'm asking a clarifying question.
I mean, it sounds like we're debating at this point, and these are late filed orders. I mean, so that's the whole reason why we had those rules, that we don't debate, because we don't know what these are about and having a chance to prepare.
True.
So let's send them to committee, and we'll deal with it there. We shouldn't be having a back and forth on this.
Second.
Well, the problem that we're not really just sending it to committee. To your point.
Wasn't that the motion?
No, the motion is to send it to committee, but also to send it to the police chief. And the question that I wanted to ask is, there's one question I wanted to ask is, this says creating fear and resentment toward local police among the Latino community about people not to stop reporting crimes, but I just want to understand that a little better, because that almost implies like all Latinos are illegally in the United States, when we know that's not true, right? I mean, the vast majority of
it refers to racial profiling, and in fact, when the police chief was in here talking in defense of the executive order to not enforce the ICE detainees,
okay.
He had actually mentioned these points exactly, and so I would like to hear him elaborate on them a little bit more in committee.
It's here in committee.
So we're going to probably have him come in then to help address this too, right? Or maybe prepare.
I would
some
hope so.
answers.
I would
Okay,
hope he'd
good.
have these questions answered and circulated, and then we could discuss them and
Okay.
have a conversation about it.
All right. Okay, very good. Any other comments?
I just want to remind everyone that 90% of the folks, Latinos, are Puerto Ricans, and they're
U.S. citizens.
U.S. citizens.
Yeah,
so
that's-
I don't know why we're going back and forth. We should move forward and let
Yeah.
it be.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
think that's why, that was kind of my point, was, and a lot of this is, it's sort of labeling all Latinos with a broad brush, like everybody's illegal in the country, when there's no person that are being picked up on this, and that Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens of the United States. That's kind of my point. So anyways, but so the motion on the floor is to send it to finance with a copy to the police chief. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Also, Mr. President, just for clarification, our Attorney General is pretty much head first in on this. So, one of our colleagues was asking about, other cities and towns, and Boston was mentioned, and so on and so forth. And so I have full trust in our Attorney General that if we were to be penalized in any way, we would have the support of her, as we have for many other issues that have come our way or other city and towns' ways. So just for the record, this is something that is being looked at statewide, and it's obviously worth a conversation.
For sure. Yeah, good point.
And it's undocumented, not illegal.
You say tomato, others say tomato.
I think it is too. Methadone Suboxone, 19.
Right, 19D.
A.
I'm sorry, 19A. Okay, so let me just get my agenda straight here. So B and C are all set. That one's all set. And we're up to 19A. Okay. Motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to go to 19A. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 19A, the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that the City Council adopt a special permit application for any methadone Suboxone clinics coming into the City of Holyoke, have considered the same. Recommend that the order be adopted. Councilors Vacan, Bartley, and Lopez. And I should just say at the outset that I am abstaining from this vote because I have a conflict of interest since my employer actually operates a methadone clinic in the city of Holyoke. But I am going to be handling the vote tallying here, okay? So I'll be refereeing the discussion, but I will not be in the discussion, and I also will not be voting, okay? So just so we're all crystal clear on that.
9 o'clock curfew.
Very good. And with that note, Councilor Vacan, do you have a motion?
Yes, a motion is to receive and pass the first reading.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. We, as many in the room are aware, had public hearings on this matter, and we did receive a 3-page recommendation from the Planning Board that recommended against adoption for the reasons that it prohibited this service within the city. Subsequent to the hearing being closed, we received in committee a communication from the legal department advising us that the distance stated in the proposed ordinance exceeded the amount and would be prohibitive to the recommended ordinance change. For that reason, we did not take up the committee report at the last city council meeting. In the 3-page recommendation from the planning board, there was no mention of the distances, and the planning board had been specifically requested to weigh into the ordinance committee specifically on that matter before we took a vote, and we kept it in committee waiting the planning board's recommendation for that very purpose. Now tonight we've received information at the microphone that I cannot find in the 3-page recommendation that came from the committee. However, I think it's fair to say that if it's information pertinent to the laws of the city, it's worthy of consideration. However, in a public hearing process, there is required public notification, there's required notification of the meetings, there's required continuation to dates certain and times certain. And the reason for that is to protect the ability of the public to weigh in positively or negatively on the matters at hand. Once the public hearing is closed, we're not able to take in other information within that process without again advertising for purposes of further amending and opening up the process for people to have due opportunity for input to the committee. So that brings us to where we are now. Based on the feedback from the attorney, we kept this ordinance in committee. We took it up at our last committee meeting, and with suspension of rules and input from our legal department, we amended this proposal before you to reduce a distance that had been recommended at a higher rate to a limit of 200 feet. So we are not creating at this point a prohibitive ordinance, and it is not the intention, and there has been no legal information or opinion brought to the committee in the public hearing forum that would indicate that an independent physician could not prescribe these medications. That has not been submitted to the committee. It was stated at the microphone tonight, but unless legal can correct me, I have no documentation that would say that an individual practitioner could no longer prescribe these medications if we adopt this ordinance. The purpose of adopting this ordinance is just like the input that you heard tonight relative to the solar project. These are projects that have many worthy aspects to them. They are also projects that have a lot of concerns and considerations that are rightly the right of the citizens to come in and have us hear them and have us understand relative to each project what the concerns, implications, and perhaps unintended consequences are. So I want to assure the public that proper open process did occur here. We did listen to legal input, and we did also hear from our chief of police, who did make recommendations to us around security issues, which we also wrote into this ordinance. For any further comments, I'll defer to the maker of the order, Councilor Lopez, if the president is.
Of course. Councilor Lopez.
Thank you. I want to speak in favor of the order. By listening to a lot of the residents and trying to put out a way for the resident to come out and speak in favor or against any future proposal, that's why this order came to the City Council. And I think that we are not denying anyone for coming forward and applying. I think that this is a process that anyone, like any other permit, they will have to come and apply. So I think that this is a win-win for the city and for anyone who's going to apply, because I think that now they need to follow the regulation of the city. Before, it was wide open, and we need to take control, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else? Councilor Roman.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you, and thank you to my colleagues. Thank you to Councilor Lopez. Thank you to Chairwoman Vika. And I know I've been at all the committee hearings from the first time of filing, and so I'd like to give the public a little bit of background knowledge and information why I will be supporting this specific order this evening. And I know I've spoken to a few people in the public this evening. As an individual who is openly HIV positive, who is on the streets, who knows individuals, many individuals who use programs such as methadone and Suboxone clinics to receive treatment, I'm in full support of expanding and growing programs. I am. And on the same token and light, as a counselor, this came about, and I've explained it to a few people as to the history, because sometimes context is important, and knowing the backstory. In my ward, at the beginning of my term, there was a proposed landlord who was going to allow a clinic to move in, and I'm in full support. And the Economic and Planning Development Office and several other city officials said, hey, you should go meet. There's neighborhood associations now. You should go talk. We welcome you. It's not a negative thing, but please come in and talk to the neighborhood. The landlord never responded, and so the tenants had some questions and some concerns as to, hey, new clinic facility moving in, are you going to connect with us? Are you going to be able to answer our concerns? Are you going to talk about simple basic things like hours of operation or lighting or security? That never came to fruition or light, and where my colleague, Councilor Lopez, was at one of these neighborhood associations where we were packed with the homeowners and residents of Springdale, Ingleside, a lot of whom said, hey, we welcome this kind of business, but we need to make sure, and they're asking the body and my colleagues and myself to please allow them to have that input and say, to at least say to whatever company. And just to give context, I, on my side, have filed similar legislation around creating special permits for specialty novelty businesses. For example, the Haunted House, which is a great addition to Ward 2, but we're talking about now creating a special permit for any company, similar to what we have for medicinal marijuana and probably recreational going forward, around allowing and making sure whatever the company is or organization, they have to have a conversation as a business or as an entity with the residents of the neighborhood. So I applaud my colleague in listening to the residents. I will be voting in favor of this. I would encourage my colleagues to do the same. I do really applaud the committee and the law department, and I hear the planning's recommendations, but for this specific order, I do have to rise in support and ask my colleagues to do the same on behalf of my constituents and residents in those neighborhoods and as Ward 2 as a whole. Thank you.
Councilor Lisi.
I'd like to make some comments, but I would like to also, after I speak, ask the legal department for an opinion. So, okay, so let me just start by saying that I fully support a special permit process for the methadone and Suboxone clinics. I do think that we had a number of public hearings and heard from the police chief and also the Holyoke Center and Providence hospitals on this matter. We heard from a lot of folks on this matter, but they were not in unanimous agreement as to what the zoning regulations should be. So I just want to reiterate, I'm fully in support of a special permit process. Although we had a lot of meetings on this issue, I have to say that I don't think that we did our due diligence, namely because I think there's a lot of questions out there, and I think there was a lot of misinformation at a number of the meetings that I was attending. Number one, I would like to know whether or not the definition in our ordinance does preclude the individual practitioners from prescribing methadone and Suboxone to their clients. We had the earlier version that had the 5,000-foot setback, and I was under the impression that it was not limited to any particular zone. And I was in support of an earlier version of this with under the assumption that there was no limitations on the zones, and that's why we could put a 2,500-foot setback on the special permit requirements. But if we're limiting it to IG, I think that we're doing our neighborhoods that abut IG zones a disservice, especially if the neighbors are feeling like their neighborhoods are becoming overly crowded in some way. Then why would we limit the methadone Suboxone clinics to a single zone in the entire city? I think it should be opened up more widely. When we corrected our mistake of the 2,500-foot buffer when it was sent back from this body to committee, I feel like we arbitrarily picked the number 200. We don't even know what 200 does. It's just a low number. I just don't feel like we did our due diligence in crafting this ordinance in a responsible way that addresses many of the questions and impacts for our city. Again, I fully support a special permit process. I don't think that we thought very clear or hard about what this legal language does and if it's actually going to allow people in our city to receive the services that they need. Holyoke Health Center and Providence Hospital both sent letters to the ordinance committee saying that they do not support the limitation of the clinics in the IG zone alone, that there is already a deficit of providers who can actually get this service out, and I would hate to see us limit more. And these are the comments that I feel like need to be addressed, and I don't think that we did our due diligence. So if I may suspend the necessary rules and get legal to offer an opinion about that definition of who's...
Whether it includes a medical office, I think is what your doctor's office, I believe, was the specific reference.
Yep.
Motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to allow the law department to address the city council to address that question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Sarah?
So first of all, I am not a medical professional, but I can discuss a little bit about the language. So the language is currently written, it defines a narcotic detoxification and or maintenance facility as a non-residential drug treatment program that assists individuals addicted to drugs by the administration of a substitute drug. So a substitute drug is that which is given to an individual who is addicted to drugs. And then it qualifies that by saying any facility that dispenses or prescribes, administers, allocates, delivers, hands out, or uses in any way a substitute drug. So it would be any facility that is prescribing one of those drugs or administers it or uses it, with or without providing other treatment services. So it doesn't necessarily mean if there's other treatment services associated with that, with the prescription of that drug, shall be deemed a narcotic detoxification and or maintenance facility. So, I mean, reasonably with this language, it could be interpreted that a doctor who is prohibited from prescribing a substitute drug, because it does say any facility, but I mean, a doctor's office could be a solo practitioner.
So the council, if it wishes, if it were concerned about that, it could say any facility excluding a physician's office. You know, they could make a specific exception in the definition.
I agree that the language can be reworked.
Yeah, just put an amendment clause if that's really the intent.
I would be careful. Again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not educated in this particular field. So as for what qualifies as a physician's office, or if there's multiple physicians working in one office,
Sure.
or that's something that would need to be looked into.
But I'm just saying the point is the council has options here. They could make clarifying language if they wanted to. So staying with Councilor Lisi. Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. And I think at the end of the day, facilities are not doing prescribing. Doctors are doing the prescribing. So I think, however we're going to wind up cutting this at the end of the day, we need to really think about the fact that facilities don't prescribe, doctors prescribe.
I think it's speaking to the program, though. I think I understand what you're saying, but I think we subscribe these adverbs and verbiage language to programs or activities. No, I'm just I'm not debating. I'm just trying to clarify a factual point about the actual language that's written.
I was just commenting to Brad's hands on comment about it being quick.
Yeah. Well, this is never, we want to get it right. Councilor Graney.
Can we just put an amendment in here excluding physicians?
Well, physicians may be giving them. I'm not sure. That might be too overbroad.
The language.
Okay.
What I'm saying is to exclude physicians from the limitations.
Okay. We potentially, yes, we could do that. Councilor, go ahead, Councilor Vacan.
I think it's worthy to take an opinion off the cuff in the future. But we had public hearing on this matter, full public hearing. There was no construing a primary care physician as a facility throughout the course of the public hearings until now, when we're just trying to make it work, make it not prohibitive. And so we either have a public hearing process or we have a never-ending public hearing process. But I have been advised more than once that once we close a public hearing, we cannot take in further factual information. And we're tripping into opinion here as to whether a primary physician is a facility. I've never heard a primary physician construed as a facility in any of the public hearings so far. But I would also submit, if we need to clarify that we can do that, but we will have to hold another public hearing.
I don't think so. I do not think that's quite right, because I'm of the opinion that public hearings traditionally are for a collection of public testimony, but as far as the legal writing of the ordinance, we have all the latitude we want in this chamber for the council to debate the merits, the demerits of the wording, and with consultation from the law department to make sure they get it right. I don't think you need new public testimony as to how you should word it. That was to get factual information to say this is a good idea or this is a bad idea and get public input. So from experts and non-experts alike. So just in fairness, I wanted to recognize Councilor McGivern because he's been waiting patiently. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand to speak against this proposal for a special permit process, which is a zoning issue. When Councilor Lopez's order came in, I saw the merit and I understood what he was asking for. I had mixed feelings about it, but it was to regulate clinics that are needed, but also in areas of any community, but in areas of Holyoke, which could be detrimental to the immediate neighborhood itself. And I understood that. I understand Councilor Lopez doing his job as a city councilor to do so. The key words were clinics. As I read the language, and that's what I thought the public hearing was about too, but as I read this language, it goes way too far. Facility. Providence Hospital is a facility that has a detox unit that uses a drug to medically get people through detoxification before referring them to a clinic. Holyoke Medical Center has an emergency room, hospital beds that do this on a daily basis. We cannot regulate Holyoke Medical Center. We never regulated Providence Hospital. We cannot regulate these type of services that are needed in the community through a zoning special permit. The intent, I think, may have been a good one, but the written language here is saying outright that both hospitals, doctors' offices, anyone that dispenses such a drug or treats a person for such an addiction would have to come to the city council for a special permit. We'd be doing 1,000 of these a year. This is not what zoning is about. Zoning is about being able to understand where services are offered and being able to regulate them as a city council. This takes it beyond what the definition of zoning is, and I think the planning board had it correct, but I just believe that this language goes way too far, and I cannot support it as written.
Councilor Lopez.
Mr. President, I think the Holyoke Medical Center, Providence Hospital, their grandfather, we're not going to even go there. I think that they will continue doing their job, whatever they're doing. I think this is going to apply to new facility, new clinics, and that's what I'm looking for. So, thank you.
Holyoke Medical Center is constantly building and expanding. Every time they expand it into a new part of their footprint, this would trip a special permit process. If Providence Hospital were to look at any of the other land that it owns within the city limits and decide to expand or to move their service, that would trip a special permit. I think we all understand that from the special permits that we've written over the years.
And just to reiterate this point that Councilor McGivern is making, I asked this exact question at the last ordinance committee meeting, and the response that Councilor McGivern just gave was, in fact, the response that legal had given us, because I was concerned about the way that we were defining the facilities and who was dispensing the treatment.
If I may, Mr. President.
Does Councilor Lopez have permission of the body to speak for a third time?
And my last one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Councilor Lopez.
No, I just want to, I think we need to take, whoever's going to vote no is going to vote no, in my opinion. But I think that we can afford, in my opinion, to have police officers all over. We already have enough problems. And I think that if we continue allowing more and more clinics, I think the police department is going to pay the price. Every single neighborhood is going to pay the price. So I think in my opinion, we need to do something ASAP before we get another clinic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Valentin.
As a licensed alcohol and drug counselor that I am, I'm sorry, but I need to speak up against the criminalization statement that was just made. We can have new businesses and programs all over the city, and they may or may not require police assistance and support. So I just, for the record, for myself, as an elected official, I cannot stand by a statement like that is criminalizing folks that are looking for assistance. We heard from someone who very eloquently got up to that microphone and spoke about her own experience, and that's not an easy thing to do, because there's a huge stigma when it comes to both mental health and substance abuse. And the fact that she took the time to come here and share her story, and for us to make any type of statements here that are criminalizing in nature, I cannot support. So I wanted to say that. I will also be voting no on this. I think it's too restrictive. I think we're getting into dangerous waters, and I'm not going to be supportive of that. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else like to be heard on this issue? Okay. So is it the will of the body to send this back to committee, or are we going to continue with the vote and we're there? The current motion on the floor, however, is to adopt.
Motion to
pass the first reading, actually.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to send this back to committee. Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to refer it back to the ordinance committee for further review. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Back to ordinance.
Mr. President, if I may make since everyone else has made a motion to suspend the rules and take up item number 16 and my two late file orders, please.
Okay, item number, let me just get back to ordinance. You said 16?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay.
As well as my two late file orders as a package, please.
Okay. With a package with 16?
Yes, please, Mr. President. It's all going to committee.
Okay. All right, thank you. I have an A. Is there another one? Okay. Looks like there's only one late file order from you.
Well, they're all bunch.
They're all together?
Oh, they're all
perfect.
bunch?
Yep, just,
okay,
perfect.
but it is
Thank
one.
you.
Yep. Okay, very good. All right. So, motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to go to item 16 relative to the application for a medical marijuana facility at 28 Appleton Street. The other is a late file communication from Councilor Roman to the city clerk, the council president, and others regarding some conversations that he had with the petitioner. All in favor of suspending the rules to take up these two items as a package and to allow final action on A as well? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Let me just review these for you. Item number 16 is a petition of GTI Massachusetts NP Corporation GTI for a special permit for a registered marijuana dispensary facility to be located at 28 Appleton Street. Late file communication A.
Abbreviated reading, Mr. President. It's just 2 email correspondence.
Yeah, this will be extremely abbreviated. This will be a communication from Councilor Roman, which may have been forwarded to some, which in it he's in a colloquy, if you will, with himself and Mr. Pete Cadens of GTI, who sitting in the back row when we heard it, public comment. So, and that was referenced. So, you could ask that a copy of that, if it hasn't already, the administrative assistant forward that communication around in some manner.
It already has.
Yeah.
Motion to send the DGNR.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to take 16 and late file A, referring both to the DGR committee under discussion. Councilor Roman.
Yes, Mr. President, we're going to beat this out in committee, and I want to thank Mr. Cadence again and Marcos Morero in the Planning and Economic Development Office earlier today for allowing us to meet. That was actually the first and only communication I had with Mr. Cadence before today, but I do thank you, sir, for your apology from one man to another. I thank you so much for that. It truly meant a lot to me, and I had Carmen Ocasio, the president of the Neighborhood Association, so it meant a lot to hear that. And again, based on their special permit application, I met with a few of the individuals from GTI, with Carmen, the president of the association, and 5 other individuals from South Holyoke back in October. We hadn't really heard from them since. Now we're happy that this application is going forward. As one of the most public, staunch supporters of both recreational and medicinal marijuana, I look forward to reviewing the applicant's information. I was grateful by his apology. I shared it with all of my colleagues, and it takes a big man to get up and apologize also in public, so I thank you for that, sir. And I look forward to just debating the merits of the application, looking for the best application for the city of Holyoke. I'm not sure if this is the first and the last, but I'm excited that this is the first official one. And I will say this, as a body, we've seen this before where we've gotten proposals for a dispensary, and the last applicant pulled out last minute after many conversations with the neighborhood. So I do applaud GTI's efforts to continue to have those community conversations, and I really look forward to this process, and I thank my colleagues. And if nothing else, it's an interesting and fun read, and you will find out a lot of amazing facts about Mr. Cadence. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You know, Councilor Roman had put that on Facebook, and I read it, and at first I thought it was kind of a terse type of email. But after reading, the thing is, I'm just the opposite of Councilor Roman. You know, I'm against, you know, the medical recreational use marijuana and all that. So him and I are on opposite ends. However, rereading it and rereading the email again, what I find is a very passionate person in Mr. Cadence. And one of the things I did, I stopped and I looked at his TED Talk, and I saw nothing but passion in how this person. It's funny that I'm actually giving props to a guy that does something that, you know, I'm against. However, he is so for the inner city, so for helping people that cannot help themselves. And so when I reread his emails and I think of it in that light, I just think of somebody that is, you know, has so much pride and enthusiasm. And, you know, I hope I have that much pride and enthusiasm in certain things as well. Granted, I'm not sure if that's the way it should go back and forth. However, you know, whatever. Thank you.
Councilor President.
My only thoughts on this is, and I express them to all of you, this is not a late filed issue in my opinion. The public doesn't know what email we're talking about because it wasn't enclosed in the agenda. It's not on the agenda. So that's the unfortunate thing about when we do these late filed orders. Again, I respectfully ask everyone, like, late filed orders are because we have a grant, we're not going to get the money, we need to make a move on. This is going to committee anyways. This could have been easily on the next agenda. Just be considerate of the public. They have a right to see this email, and it may be on Facebook. I don't know. The social media is not my thing, but it's like it would have been part of the packet. They could have read it. Now we're talking about things that the public, except for the gentleman in the audience and ourselves that saw that email, nobody knows what we're even talking about.
Can I make an amendment to send it to the ordinance committee?
To ordinance, yeah, thank you. I was actually just conferring with a couple of the chairs as well as the Councilor Roman. So the motion would be in order for ordinance. So is there a second to that?
Second.
Second. Okay, motion's been made and second, refer to ordinance. Any other discussion before we send this all to committee? Councilor McGivern.
Oh.
I just want to thank Councilor President because I wholeheartedly agree with Daniel on this one. I got an email from Jack Farrader, Attorney Jack Farrader, last night with 72 pages on this guy, Pete Caden. I replied, who's Pete Caden? There's something wrong here where we got emails and Facebook and stuff and a discussion going on before we even receive a petition or before we even receive what we're about to act on or discuss for the next 2 or 3 months. We're doing this in open session, and that's the way it should be. Thank you, Council President.
No, it's a great point, and we need to have these communications out in the open, and that's why I think it's important that the administrative assistants circulate the email so everybody on the board has the benefit of that.
Emails can violate open meetings law very easily.
Oh, absolutely. Well, especially the point is if they never come before the body. So the issue here is to making sure everybody has a copy of that. And Brenna, you said that you sent this around now to
Mr.
everybody?
President.
Okay. Very good. Councilor Roman.
I just have a point of clarification for my two colleagues here. Again, I respect wholeheartedly what you're saying, councilors. But again, just to give the background and context and history, Mr. Kidden and I already beat this as a dead horse. I got a call Thursday from the building owner of 28 Cabbage Street before a special permit application even came out. And I contacted and I already informed the building owner's attorney, who's also a consultant for GTI, and I didn't know that I was willing to meet with him, but there was no special permit application before us. So ethically, I didn't feel right meeting with a building owner on a special permit that's not even before us as a body. And I shared with that attorney some things, and that's how it got to the gentleman, and then I get an email before a special permit application even comes before us. So that's why I felt it was relevant to the late file, because before we even saw a special permit application, I'm getting an email talking about my position on what's going on with this application that appeared before us. So I felt it was relevant to the special permit application, so it's there, so the facts are out there, because I also have to be transparent to my constituents and make sure, again, exactly that you all read it the same way I read it, that I never had a correspondence before with this gentleman. We've talked it out, we've handled it out, but I felt that it was necessary and pertinent because the connecting points weren't adding up, and I wanted to make sure you all as colleagues knew that this is the communication before a special permit was filed, before I even knew 28 Cabot was the proposed site of this place.
Appleton.
Exactly. Appleton. Sorry, Appleton. 28 Appleton was even considered. It caught me all off guard, Mr. President, but we've handled that as gentlemen, but I also felt it was pertinent to the conversation as a body moving forward. Thank you.
So we're
Mr.
good.
President,
Yes, Councilor Graney.
this all should be in hard copy. It should be in print. It should be in front of the committee. It should be in front of the public before we even discuss it. So I'd like to move the question.
Okay. Motion is to send 16 and late file A to ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And let's see now. If there's no other rule suspensions.
Let's start with number 1.
We actually did 1 and 2, so it's our credit. And we did public comment. So we're now to item 3, which is relative to appointment of city officers. It was pointed out to us, and I did ask that this be put on for the next meeting so that there was plenty of notice, that they're actually, the tax collector position actually was last voted on January of 2014. Therefore, the position actually is up for a 3-year appointment this year. And so our current incumbent, Katie Chakowski, only received the remainder of the term from Mr. Guzman's remaining term. Therefore, that position is now before the body if we wish to.
Make a motion to go to first reading?
The first ballot.
First ballot, rather?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Very good. So, motion on the floor is to go to the first ballot for the position of tax collector. Okay. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Is there any discussion we want to have at this point? Obviously, she is seeking reappointment to the position. This would be for a new 3-year term from 2017 to 2020.
Mr. President, did you get any correspondence from Ms. Chakowski at all on this matter?
No. Kevin Jourdain, no.
Did anyone?
No.
No.
Okay.
It was more of a procedural thing to our astute clerk, who did pick up on the fact that Mr. Guzman's term was ending now, and she has to be reappointed. But
Public service.
I don't know, Brenna, have you talked to her? I'm assuming. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say she wants to be reappointed to another 3-year term. But I think, but nevertheless, her term is up.
I only communicated with Sarah about it.
Yeah.
Does she know the term's up?
She may or may not. Does she know? Okay. Okay. She could always resign. But I maintain that she would like to be reappointed, so I'll stand by that statement. And so she is the current incumbent of the position, and so the body is certainly welcome to vote for her or table it and advertise and do something else. But we have this now before us at first ballot. Any other discussion?
Tom Brady.
Okay. Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. When your name is called, please state your name of your candidate for tax collector.
Bartley.
Kate Chakowski.
Bresnahan.
Chakowski.
Graney.
Kate Chakowski.
Jordan.
Kate Chakowski.
Leahy.
Miss Kate Chakowski.
LeBron Martinez.
Kate Chakowski.
Lisi.
Kate Chakowski.
Lopez.
Kate Chakowski.
McGee.
Kate Chakowski.
McGivern.
Katie Chakowski.
Roman.
Katie Chakowski.
Sullivan.
Kate Chakowski.
Tallman.
Katie Chakowski.
Bacon.
Kate Chukowski.
Valentine.
Katie Chakowski.
Katie Jakowski received 15 votes.
By your vote, you have unanimously reappointed Kate Chakowski for a full 3-year term from 2017 to 2020 as a tax collector of Holyoke. Item number 4 is a communication from the mayor reappointing Michael Dodge of 131 Norwood Terrace to serve as a member of the Conservation Commission. This is a 3-year term. Said term will expire on February 1st, 2020.
Make a motion to receive and reappoint.
Yep.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and confirm the reappointment of Michael Dodge of 131 Norwood Terrace. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Mr. Dodge, confirmed. All set. Item 5.
We took care of that.
Item 5 we took care of. Thank you. Item 6. Item 6 is a communication from Brenna Murphy McGee, City Clerk, and Ryan Allen, Administrative Assistant, to the City Council. It's the minutes of the City Council of January 17th, 2017.
Make a motion to receive.
Yeah. And adopt.
And adopt.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the minutes of January 17th, 2017. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 7. Item number 7 is a communication from the Assistant Solicitor, Sarah Carroll. This is a letter regarding the Memorandum of Agreement with IBPO Local 409 Police Supervisors.
Receive, send to finance.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to receive this and to send it to Finance.
Yeah. Can we make a, well, actually, vote on that first, and then we'll make a.
I'm sorry?
Did you already vote on it? Or?
Not yet. No, I'm about to.
You're getting voted
Okay. Motion on the floor is to send item 7 to Finance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Mr. President, can we proceed out of order and take 20A and 20B up?
Okay.
Suspend the rules?
Okay.
Second.
Turning now to Finance Committee reports, there's a motion from Councilor McGee to suspend the rules to take up 20A and 20B as a package or independently?
Take them up independently.
Independently, okay. Motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to now go to item 20A, and then following that, a separate vote and discussion on 20B. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 20A. The Committee on Finance, to whom was referred a financial transfer request of $28,259.93 from free cash to longevity, clothing allowance, and holiday differential, have considered the same, recommend that this order be adopted. Councilors McGee, Tallman, Leahy, Bacon, and Lopez.
Make a motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, and to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGee.
Yeah, 20A is the supervisor's contract, police supervisor's contracts, and 20B is the patrolman's.
Okay.
And what it, as it spells out for the differentials for their bargaining agreement, so for the concessions that they gave us versus what we're giving them for longevity as well as clothing, for wages, the increase, this is the patrolman, which is 20B, is 0% for July 1st, 2016. July 1st, 2017 is 1.5%. January 1st, 2018 is 1.5%. Then 2%, 2%. So it's an increase over those years. Also for longevity, they left a percentage, changed to a percentage. So if you were 10 years or more, it was $750. Now it's 1.5%, and so on and so forth. Holiday pay is $120 for the St. Patrick's Day parade. One thing that I thought was, it's true, but it says, while not recognized as a holiday, well, for Holyoke, we recognize it as a holiday. But anyway, so it's $120 if you're working the parade. Clothing allowance is going to go to add on $250. And the one that brought up a lot of debate was the drug testing. As we approved in our budget package, it was a dollar amount in order to test everybody. The new drug testing will be amended to say that they'll do it quarterly, and not all members will be sent up for a testing, but not to exceed 40% of the membership. So in essence, what they're going to do is a random drug testing up to 40%. So it'll be a lottery. You'll go up, you'll do your test. All the names will go back into the lottery, and next quarter they'll do it again. So you could get called twice in a row, 3 times in a row. So it's all random. So that brought up a lot of debate simply because, due to all the articles and everything that we did see about drug testing, it was going to be across the board. Now it's going to be on a random drug test. So that's the amendment to the agreement. One of the things that
could you just since you're on that point, clarify, because I've had some calls about the current rule versus the new rule, and so just folks at home are interested, is my understanding is under the old rule, everybody got tested.
Correct.
The new rule, only 40% got tested, and why that was deemed to be a good thing to make the change.
So the city may also, I'll read the section so it'll make it a little more clear. The city may also, without reasonable cause, administer a random drug test and alcohol testing of all members not to exceed 40% of all the members in a calendar year. Testing shall be administered in the following manner. The Occupational Health Services of Holyoke Hospital shall maintain a pool of names of all employees subject to this policy and shall on a quarterly basis randomly select a number of names which will so 10% of the pool. Occupational Health Services shall notify the Chief of Police of the names selected. The chief shall order those employees to report to Occupational Health Services for drug and alcohol testing for the next available day. Members who are selected for testing in any given quarter shall have their name returned to the pool of names and are subject to further selection and testing and random draws as required. So before it was, I think it was allocated $100,000 to do drug testing across the board.
Everybody.
Everybody. Now it's going to be a pool. So you'll get a percentage. That quarter, they have to go up, do their test. All the names that were selected will be put back into the pool, and then next quarter they'll draw another percentage to then go back up. So the argument to that was it was a cost savings to the city. Instead of paying for everyone to get done, they're only going to do a percentage quarterly, and also by doing it that way, it was supposed to be a better process. We questioned it. We did ask, what are the benefits to the city, which then we did receive an email that with regards to this kind of request being adopted in the agreement, that one of the concessions was for summer months, June, July, and August, they will allow the auxiliary or reserve officers to sub in for a police officer if one of them calls out sick. So instead of paying $27 an hour, it'll go down to $14.99 an hour, which then the estimated savings would be about $48,000 per year. One of the other concessions by the Patrolman Supervisor Union was to court time. If you're going into court, instead of being an 8 hours requirement, they'll drop it down to a minimum of 4. Another one was, and that would represent about $11,000 savings. For the patrolman's contract, they cut back the sick leave buyback. It was at $250, so anyone hired now, January 1st going forward, that would drop down to $200 instead of $250, which that estimated about a $13,000 per employee over time, depending on if they use their sick time or not. So those were the questions that were brought up. As far as the drug testing, that was probably more of me saying that what was proposed in the beginning and we accepted was everyone across the board. And that's what we funded for. Now they're taking on a different type of testing pursuant to the contract negotiations.
So just so I got it clear, the mayor agreed to weaken the drug testing policy from everyone being tested to only 40% being tested, and constituents are I just want to clarify that point just so we're clear, and that he actually, to reduce that, it was stated in the paper that he actually gave them more money to actually test less people. So I just wanted to see, is that was the way it was categorized?
I asked for a suspension of the rules. I wasn't part of the
contract
negotiation.
To clarify that point, it's just a lot of people are inquiring about this. I'm even getting, I don't know if other people are getting it, but we're getting anonymous letters from Hartford now even on all these things. But go ahead. Motion to suspend the rules to allow the law department to address this. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
The new policy is actually strengthening what we have now.
Explain.
Because when you test the entire department at once, it is administratively infeasible to essentially have everyone tested at the same time. So it has to be done over a course of days. I mean, you have employees that work 3 different shifts, and they work on different schedules. So everyone's not in the department at the same time. So when you start the drug testing process, it can take 3 or 4 days. By the 4th day, everybody knows drug testing is going on. Not to mention you have employees that are away, you have those that are out on leave or who are out on vacation, and now you have to wait, and they get tested when they come back, so they had a week, two weeks notice of the drug testing that was being conducted. So administratively, this system is actually administered by Work Connections at Holyoke Medical Center. Every name of the group will be placed into a random pool, and those names are drawn on a quarterly basis. The department has nothing to do with that. It's all done by Holyoke Medical Center. The chief is given a list of names on a quarterly basis, and he will instruct the individuals to report when they're available. So if someone's name is drawn and they're on their 2-week vacation, when they come back, that's when they receive their first notice that they need to go get drug tested. The way that the system is set up is that the names actually go back into the pool after so if you are chosen for drug testing, the name goes back into the pool. And so the odds are you could be tested 4 times in a year. It's not that you're tested once and, the city has $0 budgeted for drug testing, so drug testing won't occur for another year. It's more of a mechanized process. It's a routine process, and it's something that we were looking to do with this contract just to make it more of a matter of course in the department.
Why did 10 get picked versus dividing it 25, 25, 20? So basically there's a shot everybody could be, because right now it's basically everyone's tested once a year. Under the new system, you could theoretically not be tested for 2.5 years.
Right, but it's a system of odds. So you could also be tested
the odds
4
are
times
2.5 years mathematically.
Right. And
right?
I mean, the 10% was chosen because of costs, because it is expensive to drug test.
I think the council made it quite clear we were not concerned with the cost. We were concerned about departmental integrity, and that we've had drug problems in this department, and that we wanted to make sure that we were going to be staunched in our enforcement of the drug rules as it relates to this for departmental integrity. We already had that whole conversation once about the funding when they tried to yank the funding and we reinstated the funding. It's not a money issue; it's an integrity issue.
Well, also, for every individual that you take and send up to Work Connections, you're taking them off the road, and that needs to be that position needs to be covered within a department. So we're just trying to make it a matter of course and not have it be a routine obstruction, essentially, to public safety services. We want it to be just a routine matter of course. It is.
All right. Okay, interesting. All right, Councilor Sullivan, any questions for the law department, or anybody else with questions for the law department?
Not for the law department, but in
Okay.
In reference to what Sarah is telling us here, this is the exact same procedure that interstate truck drivers have to use for the U.S. Department of Transportation to maintain their licenses. It's the exact same system.
Yeah, but that's not. Why is that the standard? I mean, these are people walking around carrying guns,
Right.
driving police cars. They're not driving rigs. You know, those people don't work for us. I think the council, I just want to point out that constituents are apparently pretty more observant than I am, that they're pointing out that we have weakened the drug policy in this city from 100% to 40% annually. That's the only point I'm observing, and I'm clarifying that point. And I'm supportive of these contractors. I want them to get these raises. I just want it to be known that this administration supports weak drug policies on city employees. That's my only point, and apparently it's supported by the fact we're going from 100% to 40%. But that was my only point.
I understand the point, and
okay.
You'll see my concern about that later in number 29 when we get to that.
Okay. Council President.
Sarah, I just had a question for you, if you'd be so kind. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming everybody got this anonymous letter from who knows, maybe Hartford. But I mean, is the contract done? Is the drug policy? Is everything at 100% ready to? We approve this. It's a done deal. There's no going back to the drawing board. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to finish up at your end. The contract is done.
No, well, I will say that the drug policy itself is 90% done. It's not entirely done, and there are some things that we were trying to get this through to the council and to get the contract approved, and we have agreed, and it's in the MOA. It explains that we're going to meet to work out the parameters of the drug policy, but the language that's in the MOA about the percentage, that's done.
Right, but I mean, so if then what could potentially be changed with that 10% of the drug policy if it gets approved tonight? I mean, what do you?
Well, we've already agreed to that. I'm going to say, I'm supporting the contract because we worked through negotiations to come to an agreement on this. But that wouldn't be something. The 10% wouldn't be something that we would change unilaterally, and it's something that the union would have to agree to.
Right. Again, I don't care about the numbers. I guess, I want the contract to go through, support the police, all that sort of stuff. My question is, if 90% of it's done with respect to the drug policy, what 10% could we be missing or could change? Not the 10% of who gets drug tested.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's more the specifics of how how testing would be conducted, and there, the union had specific concerns about the handling of the testing itself and how it's done. Ensure there's no error. Ensure it's what facility it's being sent to and how it's being handled and sent to those facilities. So it'd be the more specific details about how it would be conducted.
You said something interesting about how if they had to take a drug test during their shift, they would have to leave. I mean, that couldn't be. They couldn't on their way home stop off at the clinic. I mean, why would they have to? I mean, why would they have to do it at their job shift? Why couldn't they do it on their way home, their way to work? I mean, it just seems like we're going to pay somebody overtime to fill a slot so the guy can take 15 minutes.
I agree, and I'm not saying that we would automatically pay them overtime. There may be other ways that this can be worked out. I mean, officers do take meal breaks, so I assume that they're not, that there are ways to work that out. I'm not saying it's an automatic overtime, but with that, this gives the city a degree of control. So we can, if you go to an officer and you say, you need to go get drug tested today, but at your leisure, we lose that element of control. Otherwise, you can say, you need to go do drug testing right now. It's unannounced. You have to report directly there. You can't go home first. This is it. We're getting more accurate results. Not that we weren't in the past, because the last round of drug testing proved that the department was drug-free. So it's at least a more element of control.
And I don't want to beat this, but I mean, so if it was done in the past and we proved that the department's clean, so to speak, and not to use, I mean, we're changing it now, and I understand the randomness of it, okay, because I understand that completely. The problem is, though, the name goes back in the pool. Well, the same person could get randomly pulled to be drug tested, and the same person could not be pulled after time after time after time. So I'm just wondering, in your opinion, or from a legal perspective, is that that truly providing a safe department where we're randomly testing them as opposed to testing all of them? Forget about the money, forget about the overtime, forget about what they're on vacation, because I imagine if there's 100 police officers, 80 of them aren't on vacation at the same time. So my question is like, it just doesn't make sense to me, the randomness.
I would say that with random drug testing, you don't know when your name is up. But if it's done regularly and you know that it's going to happen every year at the same time every year, then you're on notice.
Yeah. Well, it just seems that then why don't we do it?
So we're that
unannounced. That doesn't make sense to me.
And this is the closest thing to unannounced. We in working with the patrolmen and the supervisors union, we were able to come to terms on this type of arrangement. Having purely random unannounced drug testing is something that would be subject to collective bargaining. We do, however, still in the contract have reasonable suspicion drug testing. So, and there are specific articulable standards where if those are observed in the department, any officer or supervisor could be sent for drug testing on the spot because we have reasonable suspicion.
And Sarah, who negotiated this contract on behalf of the city, not the police department?
I was on the negotiation team and a representative from the mayor's office.
But who anyone else that was on your team?
A representative from the mayor's office.
And who was that?
That was Rory Casey.
How many police contracts have you negotiated?
I've been with the department for 6 years. I have sat in on negotiations, and I have been apprised of and I've done other contracts on my own. This is the first time that I've personally negotiated our police contracts. I will say the past round of negotiations, I don't think there were any language changes 3 years ago. No, it was just raises and no language changes. So
and do you know how much experience Rory Casey has had as a negotiator for police contracts?
Well, in that regard, he works as the representative of the mayor in those negotiations.
And I only ask this, Sarah, as you all know, when a city solicitor is appointed, we have the abilities to flesh out experience, resumes, and this is no disrespect to you. I respect you wholeheartedly. But when we have an acting city solicitor, as we have now for years and years and years, we don't get to find out where they went to school, how much experience they've had. So that's why we need to have a city solicitor, not an acting city solicitor as we have for years. And this is no reflection upon you, Sarah. And I'm sorry to call it out on this, but the police union is a very strong union in every state, in every city. I just hope that we're getting, and I trust you, but I just truly hope we're getting our most bang for the buck.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a point of information. Can we amend a motion to approve this contingent upon completion of the policy? Because one of the questions that was raised is if it's 10% not done and we just approve the money and everything, how will we ever even know if it is done?
The council could table it and wait until it's done and then take it up when it's done and see the final product.
I didn't know if it would be in order to approve it, that it could go into effect when we were presented with it.
I don't think we can put conditions. I think you either are yes or you're
Okay.
no on these. Once it sort of leaves, that's that. But Sarah, just to continue to plumb in on this a little bit more, there's under the current rule, and I want to make sure I'm being fair and I'm understanding the current rule, but my current understanding of the rule is everybody gets tested at least once per year, correct?
It's not once per year. It's just if one member of the department is tested, everybody's tested.
Okay, so we're going to test everybody. And we could test you as many times as we want.
Everybody,
though. Well, I want everybody. Me personally, Kevin, I want everybody tested. That was what we were told. We talked about this at length previously, that we want everybody tested. Absolutely everyone. And for obvious reasons. So we can't make that random currently. We have to give you, eons of notice that under the current rule, if the rule is we test everyone, which is exactly what we wanted, was to have everyone tested, that you couldn't say, well, 25% are now and 3 months from now or 2 months from now. We have another 25%, but in the course of a year, we get to everybody?
I mean, that's something that would be subject to negotiation to say when it means you test everyone, you can test everyone randomly throughout the year. I think that's certainly a stretch, and the way it was interpreted in the past and the way it was previously conducted was that, I do not believe that anyone was given, except for the supervisors who were helping with the testing as it was conducted, knew about it, but it was there was no notice to the department. But once the process started, it took several days.
Okay, so several days. But that's even in of itself is not that much notice. I mean, if you're an active drug user and you've got a couple days notice, I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to cover that up. And you better be hopefully you're the one that gets picked on day 3 versus day 1. That makes a little bit, to me, more sense than the deal now, which is 40%. I mean, this was a pretty serious scandal. I mean, and I'm really concerned that the administration is doing a 180 on drug testing of public safety officials in the city. I mean, this was really, embarrassing, quite frankly, in the newspaper, and we heard quite clearly from the department leadership of the police department that we're going to hold officers to the highest standard and that we're going to ensure to the people of Holyoke that everybody is clean from drugs, period. And that's not just police, but that's also fire. And therefore, we seem like we're doing a 180 backwards on that now. And we're now reducing bringing everyone for testing. And then at the other hand, it's packaged like, with all due respect, the union is doing us a favor by reducing the amount of people tested. So therefore, it was stated in the newspaper, and correct this if it was wrong, that we gave them additional benefits to test less of them. I mean, that's a pretty good negotiation from their side. I'm just trying to understand the thinking on our side.
So the random drug testing policy that we negotiated will be more effective, and we get more, essentially more results for our money. We can assure that the department meets a higher standard.
You're testing less people. I just don't know how you get over that hurdle.
They're being tested. Huh? Otherwise, they know ahead of time. They don't know they're being tested. It's purely random. I mean, if you are not, we don't. It's my understanding that we don't have any drug users in the police department, and
we thought that before.
Right, I understand that. But if there were one, they wouldn't know when they're being sent for drug testing. So it's a disincentive.
Right.
This is part of a comprehensive program to address drug testing in all of our public
Right, but I mean, did the drug testing company suggest that this was a better way to do it, or was this the mayor's office and the police department that decided this is a better way to drug test us, or this is a better way to drug test? I want to know, did the drug testing experts tell the city of Holyoke the best way to drug test police officers and firemen is to do the plan that you're telling us?
Well, we look at what other cities and towns have done. We look at, like the DPW does random drug testing as well. We're looking at making it a comprehensive program for all of our public safety departments.
Well, we're getting to understand what the thinking behind the decision. I don't totally disagree with the decision. Obviously, I'm supportive of these officers getting their pay raises, and I'm going to vote for this, but I just wanted on record in this question-answer period that I think this is a complete backtracking from our previous position on this. Councilor Vacan.
And I just want to note, I was quoted in the paper as complimenting them on their negotiating skills relative to getting the increase, relative to the drug testing. The context that comment was made in was that I was surprised, but I had to give them credit in the negotiation for getting extra benefits for agreeing to the testing, because in other professions, it's just a given. It's a condition of the job. You do it. You don't get anything for it. It's just if you want to work here, you do it. So my compliment was to them in that regard, that they were successful in that. The committee, of course, had no ability to negotiate on that matter.
Okay. Councilor Sullivan, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, and to that point at that same meeting, what I asked directly to the union guys, how and when does a matter of public safety, the drug testing, become a financial bargaining chip in this whole process? So it's just not right.
Okay, any other questions? No, hearing none. Okay, well, we're currently at first reading on 20A. All in favor? Opposed? I heard one yes and 14 abstentions.
Yes.
But we'll say that passes.
Pass the second reading.
Okay, motion to
Second.
pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the financial transfer. A no vote is to deny it.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Abstain.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
14 yeas and 1 abstain.
By your vote, you've approved the transfer request for the Hoyle Police Supervisors, and now under the rule suspension, we now have 20B before the body. The Committee on Finance, to whom was referred a financial transfer request in the amount of $43,801 from free cash to longevity, clothing allowance, and holiday differential, have considered the same, recommend that the order be adopted. Councilors McGee, Tallman, Leahy, Bacon, and Lopez.
Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGee, same.
Same. This
Same.
is now patrolman.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Pass second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting the transfer request and approving the raises. A no vote is to deny it.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Sullivan.
Oh, yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy abstain.
Abstain, yep.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
14 yeas, 1 abstain.
By your vote, you have approved the transfer request for the Hoyle Patrolman Union. Councilor Bacon.
In the context of this vote, can we request that Attorney Carroll provide us with a communication when that drug procedure is completed?
Maybe for next meeting, we'll file an order.
The
How about
missing
that?
10%, the missing link.
Well, why don't we file a...
She'll,
Just to
she'll
understand it
send
a
them
little
out.
better.
She'll send it to us.
Okay. Sarah, you'll do that? Thank you. Appreciate it. All set. Okay, so we're back to regular order. And that leaves us at item 8. Thank you, sir. Item number 8 is from Bellamy Schmidt. He's the acting city solicitor regarding monthly budget reports for the general fund and sewer fund as of November 30th, 2016.
Receive and send to finance.
Okay, motion's been made at second. Receive
Mr.
and refer to
President.
Finance. Yes, sir.
Slight clarification.
Sure.
Acting auditor.
Acting auditor. Okay, did I say something else? I probably did. Acting auditor.
Yes, solicitor on your mind because of.
Oh, yes. I apologize. Acting auditor, Mr. Schmidt. Very good. Good catch. So the motion on the floor is to receive 8 and send it to the Finance Committee. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Number 9. Item number 9 was communication from Damian Cody, who, as you know, is our building commissioner, and this letter is a 12-month progress report of the activities going on in his department, and we always appreciate when he does these. They're very thorough.
Motion to receive.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 10. Item number 10 is from Alicia Zeller. She's the administrator of the Office of Community Development. It's a letter regarding fiscal year 2017 Community Development Block Grant Proposal Book.
Motion to receive and receive and refer to DGR.
Yep, motion's been made and seconded to receive and refer to DGNR, and everybody should have their books at this point. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 11 is communication from the Office of the Attorney General. This is regarding the violation of open meeting law that was filed some months ago and saying that the matter is closed.
Please suspend the rules and take 11 through 13 as a package.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to take items 11, 12, and 13 as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 12 is a communication from Terry Shepard, who's the Director of Park and Rec. It's the minutes of December 6, 2016. And item number 13 is from the Board of Fire Commissioners. It's the minutes of their January 25th, 2017 meeting.
Motion to receive all 3.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive all 3. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, petitions. Now brings us to item 14. Item number 14 is a petition of Holyoke Retail LLC for a zone change to be located at 1504 Northampton Street from R2 to Business Highway.
Ordinance.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to receive, refer to ordinance. This says this 2.13 acre commercial property is zoned highway business. Neighboring properties on Northampton. I'm trying to get a grasp for where
is this?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Rite
trying
Aid.
It's zoned R2.
Rite Aid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rite Aid. Oh,
Yeah.
no kidding. Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you. So this is for Rite Aid to rezone some portion of that, if not the whole thing, as from R2 to Business Highway.
So I'm assuming 1504 is the whole plaza, or is it just Rite Aid?
Not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that's the front of it is 1504. I'm not,
address for Rite Aid is 1504.
Okay. All right.
but it could be the whole plaza, the whole area, because I think it might be owned by one person, and I think they were trying to sell it or transfer the property. So.
Okay.
All right, motion is to send 14 to ordinance. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 15 is a petition from Kenrick Williams of 97 Locust Street. He's seeking the renewal of his home occupation for his landscaping business. And just quickly taking a look, all of his municipal charges and property taxes are current. He has a property management business. It appears is the name of his business, KW Property Management. He's doing landscaping and lawn care.
Make a motion
Receive and
to
approve.
grant the renewal.
Yep, motion's been made and seconded to receive the petition and to grant the renewal with any pre-existing conditions. Any discussion? Yeah, he's current on everything. Yep. Hearing no discussion, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to grant Mr. Williams' renewal. A no vote is to deny.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan? Yes. Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you have approved Mr. Williams' renewal. We already took care of 16. We're now off to 17.
17 and 18 as a package.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to take 17 and 18 as a package. All in favor of that? Opposed? So moved. Petition of J&W Wally LLC, Josue Rivera, for a new special permit for a motor vehicle repair garage to be located at 243 Elm Street. Item number 18, a petition of J&W Wally LLC, Josue Rivera, for a new special permit for outdoor sales lots for new and used motor vehicles and trucks and marine and recreational vehicles to be located at 243 Elm Street. DGNR, or?
Yep.
I believe so, right? Okay, motion on the floor is to take 17 and 18 and refer them to DGNR. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. President's report. I think I have it covered at this point. We touched on one thing I wanted to clarify on, but so we're all set. I'm going to pass on President's report for tonight. That means I have to do it twice as long at the next meeting. I'm sorry.
What about the meeting last night? Any reports about
the meeting?
the meeting?
Oh, yeah. We had a great ward. I see one of my constituents, two of my constituents here. We had a great Ward 6 neighborhood meeting at Sullivan School, and it was a fantastic meeting, really well attended. Everybody came out and had a lot of questions, good questions. It's a smart group in Ward 6, and they follow everything, so it was really good. And Mike McManus came and spoke too, and talked about a lot of different things. So it was really, really good. So,
Mr. President,
and Councilor Bartley attended too, and that was appreciated. Yes, Councilor.
is there I think I got the email, a meeting for ordinance? Is it tomorrow?
Yes.
That was canceled from last week. I'm not sure if people are aware of that.
Yeah, we had a good. Good point.
emails.
We had a snow out.
And Ryan sent an email to all counselors.
Right, we got the email. Okay, I didn't know if anybody was aware of it though.
Yeah, friendly reminder. Good point. We have ordinance committee tomorrow at 6:30. 7 o'clock. 7. Okay. So a little bit different
I
time.
notified all people who have orders that are on the agenda, people who regularly attend. And Ryan sent out another separate email notice.
Okay.
And posted it yesterday.
And it'll be 52 degrees, so you shouldn't have to cancel.
Let's hope.
Let's move on.
All right, great. Okay, moving right along to 19B, the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that the City Council consider revisiting the ordinances relative to the funds provided to the Mayor's Office in lieu of providing a vehicle. Recommend that the order be adopted. Councilors Vacan, Lisi, Jordan, Bartley, and Lopez.
Motion to pass the first reading.
Yes, motion's been made and seconded to receive and to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Vacan.
So, a year or two ago, we went through a big revision to address some issues relative to travel in the mayor's car. We won't get into all that history. Nonetheless, given that we had changed it to a stipend and then the car still remained sitting in the parking lot behind City Hall and was utilized on a regular basis anyway, and through discussion with committee, Councilor Bartley's order, we revisited the whole idea and in general are finding it of better interest to the city and interest to the position of mayor to return to providing the vehicle. But I'll let Councilor Bartley speak to it more at the pleasure of the president. He was the maker of the order.
Councilor Bartley, or?
I think she summarized it.
Okay.
So we're pretty much getting rid of the stipend.
Yep, and getting the car back.
And putting the car back. So
yep.
I think it was time. Somebody had to file the order, so I'm glad I did it.
Yep.
And that stipend had to go. And so if assuming we pass that tonight, the stipend will disappear, and then he can have the car just like it always used to be. Thank you.
And there was a number of tightening of rules regarding who can drive city vehicles and things.
Yeah, we tightened the ordinance up.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure.
I think when we had spoken about this, there had been some conversation about the mayor wasn't able to be at that meeting. Was he at this one?
He was invited, but unfortunately, he did not come the next time either.
Okay.
He did come originally to one.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
he came to one.
We had it on 3 different agendas. He did attend one.
I didn't know, so I'm just asking if he was a participant in the discussion. That's
Yes.
all.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that's
Oh, yeah.
what I wanted to know. I'm good, thank
Both
you.
at the meetings and not at the meetings. He gave his opinions very clearly at the meeting and otherwise.
That's fine. I just know that the first time we were going to vote on this, it got sent back so that there would be an opportunity for that. So I just wanted to
And that
bring it
occurred.
full circle and see if that had taken place.
Good point. Yes,
Thank
it
you.
did. Yep, absolutely. Good point. All right. Any other discussion? Okay.
Has the city seal on it, doesn't it?
By law, it's supposed to.
It does.
Okay. I haven't checked it lately, but people are saying it happens. Big and round and has Industria Copia on it.
Thanks to Anthony Soto. Not the school
Absolutely.
department one, the other one.
Yes, the former colleague of ours, yes. Aspiring to be a colleague again, I'm told. So, all in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
And a motion that the passage be ordained.
Yep, motion's been made and seconded that the passage be ordained. There is no further discussion. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to adopt the ordinance change, and no vote is to deny it.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? Unanimous vote of the body.
By your vote, you have approved the ordinance change. 19C is a report from the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that no budgetary salary line be increased following approval of the budget without an appropriation submitted to and approved by the City Council. Have considered same, recommend that the order be adopted. Councilors Vacan, Lisi, Jordan, Bartley, and Lopez.
Motion to pass the first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
So I filed this order because of repeated issues in the budget where we have approved a budget only to find out later people are paid sometimes $5,000, sometimes $10,000, sometimes even a greater amount that more than what was budgeted. And then in the subsequent budget, the new base becomes the basis for whatever percentage is showing up in the next budget. So what this creates is an ever-increasing base to the budget when we're sitting here for hours going through the budget line by line, making painful cuts, taking all the heat, because the only role we have is to make cuts, but we're trying to exercise some fiscal restraint, only to turn around and find out that line items are just arbitrarily increased with money moving around within the lines. Now, what the committee did to be specific about this, because there was concern raised that if we were to implement an ordinance of this sort, that it would limit the ability for the departments to use overtime. And so folks came in with that question. It was asked and answered because that is not the intent. The intent is that a salary line cannot be increased without the council making an affirmative appropriation of the money to accomplish it.
And to
so,
your,
Do you have any examples? And this is to Councilor Bresnahan's point that he made earlier in the meeting tonight also.
And just to point out, to augment your point, in the ordinance change, it deals with object codes 51100 through 51299, which excludes overtime accounts.
And
it's only salary lines.
Right.
Councilor Bresnahan, because that was there was a question on that. So we were very specific. Okay.
So does the chair have any examples of that, of what took place?
Well,
just off the top of
Is
your
that
head?
a softball question?
we have the issue of our fire chief's contract. We have the issue that is before committee right now on the purchasing position, although that one is coming before us for appropriation because they didn't have enough to transfer to just make it happen. That's why I want to make it law that it must happen, because had there been enough money in another line, that would be another example where it just would have happened. So that's two examples off the top.
Thank you.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I apologize for missing this meeting, but to the chair, the department heads, if there's money in there, if a person is getting an increase, you're saying that they don't get an increase without our approval?
Look, can I illustrate?
Yeah.
The illustration is this. Employee X has a salary of $70,000 that's voted by, say, let me make it real simple. Mayor comes in, says, pay employee $80,000. City council cuts it to 10 to say maybe he was getting paid 70 last year. And so the mayor says, well, I'm going to give him a 10,000 raise. But the council, after going through it, says, no, we're going to keep it at 70 or maybe somewhere in between. Council votes it to 70. Budget goes through. First day in, July 2nd, mayor transfers the money from overtime and gives them the 10,000 back. In direct opposition to what the council just voted. That you can do right now until this ordinance passes. So this is going to give teeth to actual salary cuts that we make, or more. We don't usually cut people's salary. What we're doing is we're limiting the increases that are being unilaterally given by the administration. And so what we're saying in the budget process is, if we cut something, it's staying cut unless this council puts it back.
Okay, so that's the only thing it does. I was just concerned at department heads that sometimes we talked about, my colleague said there's 6 people retired from the fire department.
Yeah.
And there's salaries in there for those 6 for the remainder of the fiscal, say 4 months.
Yep.
Can that money still be transferred to other items within that department?
Yes, because this speaks only to increases. You can decrease. Okay. You can't increase. So if he wants, say somebody left, you could take that money out and put it into overtime, for example. But what you couldn't do is take money from overtime and give somebody a $20,000 pay raise that the council just voted not to do without us approving that. because they're basically sidestepping the process right now. They're crafty.
Okay, I know that.
So you vote something out, and they just go ahead and the next day and put it right back.
Okay, and I'm not talking for the mayor, but I'm just saying the department heads still have a right.
But the mayor has to sign off on it.
Right, and the department heads can still transfer money out if somebody leaves a job and put it into another line item.
You can decrease, just can't increase.
Right. I mean, they
you
can
can
put
do
it into
that.
another,
Absolutely.
another line item.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I?
Yeah, Mr. President, would this ordinance by any chance cover something like $45,000 severance pays?
That would be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yes, it would.
That would be another example where they were able to move and increase one of these salary lines by 45 to pay somebody.
That's very interesting.
Can I ask a
This is
question?
a good ordinance.
Councilor Valentin.
So, for example, and I think it's kind of following up with Councilor Tallman's question. So, if someone, let's say a department head has a vacancy, and so obviously they're not going to need that much money to finish the fiscal year, et
But
cetera.
we left it funded at the budget. So just so I understand your question, position X is funded at $50,000, but it's vacant.
Yeah, it became vacant
Because somebody
midway
left
into
during
the
the
year.
year. Yes.
So this is not saying that that department head cannot transfer money from there to, for example, a line where they can have somebody come in on like a temporary.
Exactly.
So that is not being affected.
Correct. What this is precluding is from increasing the lines. So what you couldn't do is take, say, overtime, the reverse of that situation, which would be the council says we want the pay to be 50, but the mayor came in originally in 60. We cut it at 10 down to be back to 50. He couldn't take overtime money and then drop it and put it back to 60.
I just don't want to penalize department heads with this. So I'm thinking about,
well, it's not an issue of penalty. It's an issue of, I think they're just going to require your approval to do that. That's the point.
But you're saying that if, for example, if the scenario is that there's a vacancy, they're not increasing the salary was still 50 if the person would have been there all year, but so happens that person's not there anymore, they can take from there and move it to the line so that they can have temporary assistance in terms of filling that position.
Yeah.
Right, Mr. President, it just says no budgeted salary line can be increased.
I just want to be, like you say, crystal clear on this because department heads, have actually contacted me asking about this and saying, what is this going to hurt me in any way? And if so, that I'm not.
I mean, I think I would say some department heads would not want this because now they can just do this unilaterally. What they do is, technically, when we approve the budget, all personnel money is technically in one pot. And without any council approval, and this is the same on the expense side, by the way, those monies can all be shifted around in those lines as they ever want with just mayoral approval. So for the specific certain range of salary lines, exclusive of overtime, for example, we're saying, no, you can't do that. Like to actual enumerated position lines. So if you go ahead, Councilor Lisi.
But to the question that Tallman and Valentin are raising here, the temporary seasonal help is an object code 51240, so it would be included in the ordinance the way that we wrote it.
But if I may.
Correct. Certain lines, if you're going to redirect and create a job and make it into 3 jobs, you would need council approval for that. But like for example, overtime, we excluded. Buybacks, we excluded those lines. This is strictly the actual enumerated salary lines.
Yeah, which means that you couldn't do what Councilor Valentin is proposing. If there's a vacancy, just simply move it to temporary seasonal help. You would need to do that. No, you would need to come before City Council to say, I want it to go into temporary seasonal help, or I want to.
I should have been more clear on that.
That's my point. So I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
That's fine. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Valentin.
Thank you. So I just want to clarify that in that example of a position becoming vacant, the money is still available, the same money to recruit and fill the position.
Right. And
It doesn't go away because the person went away. It's still there in the budget to fill the position.
And quite frankly, I think the council, if we're going to start taking full-time positions and start turning them into temporary seasonal
we don't
jobs,
need them.
I think we should have a conversation about why is that going on. And quite frankly, how many departments even have temporary seasonal positions? Very few. Anyways, so, any other questions? All right, very good. So, all in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading?
Okay, all in favor, any discussion? All in favor of passing the second reading?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded that the passage be ordained. There is no further discussion. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting the ordinance change, and no vote is to deny it.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
No.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
No.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
No.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy, LeBron Martinez,
No.
Lisi,
No.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee. 10 yeas, 5 nays.
By your vote, you've adopted the ordinance change to give the council more say and oversight. Thank you. All right, so we took care of that. And let's see, we're now on to 19E.
Abbreviated reading?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to give abbreviated reading of 19E. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. There was a proposal that went to ordinance regarding the creation of a trust fund for the Hoyoke Disaster Relief Trust Fund. You can read all the language there. There was a number of the mechanics to do that. After it was all said and done, this was a good order. It was well-intentioned, but it was ultimately decided that there was another mechanism to handle this through a nonprofit. And so the committee made a recommendation to give leave to withdraw, and that was approved by Councilors Bacon, Lisi, Jordan, and Lopez.
A motion to receive and adopt the committee report?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
What he said. Simply spoken, the money was transferred to the Chamber Foundation, and it will be, I just read an article in the paper today that it will be allocated this month, is what the understanding is, and so there was no need for us to pursue this in the city.
Any other discussion? Councilor McGee?
Just one clarification, because I read it in the paper. They said that it was Councilor McGee that came up with this whole idea and made it a political process.
Really?
Since it was a financial transfer, and as the chair, they just put my name on it.
Right.
I have no problem setting up an account to receive money
Yeah.
for the city and then pay it out. That would be the proper
Thank you
way.
for- yeah.
But they said it was me. I'm not. Yeah, it wasn't Republican. It was another paper. I'm just not going to say.
Oh, some other paper.
Yeah, some other paper.
Never
So,
the...
It wasn't Mike Plaisance. No.
New York Times?
That is the gold standard of journalism, the Republican newspaper.
So I just
would
want
never
that
happen.
clarification, because I got a phone call. I'm like, I did actually draft that at all.
It was a paper with alternative facts.
Yeah. So, and I do bring this up because there was another
You were
time
the victim of fake news.
when Mike Sullivan filed for bonds of like $40 million, and someone said McGee is trying to spend $40 million. I said, no, I'm not. So just
A lot of responsibility with that chairmanship.
So the victims haven't gotten any money yet.
No.
All right. So any other discussion on this item?
We shouldn't be talking about the Washington Post this way.
All in favor of adopting the committee report?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So, let's see here. 20A we took care of. 20B we took care of. We're up to 20C. Thank you. Committee on Finance, to whom was referred a financial transfer request of $65,000 from free cash to motor vehicle supplies and motor vehicle repairs. Have considered the same. Recommend that the order be adopted. Councilors McGee, Tallman, Leahy, Bacon, and Lopez.
Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading.
Okay,
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt and to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGee.
This is the amount of money that they're going to need to keep the fleet that they currently have up and running. And as we all know, we approved 3 cars and another 3, so a grand total of 6. But that's going to take about 6 months before they actually get those vehicles. And they're riding on cars that are in very bad shape. So
This is the police, right?
This is the police department.
Yes.
And they're looking, this is their best estimate as to parts and labor and everything else that's going to go in to try and keep these current cars running. And due to the age of the fleet, that is why it's increased in cost.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Pass the second reading.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the financial transfer. A no vote is to deny it.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Jourdain,
Yes.
Leahy, LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
By your vote, you have approved the financial transfer for the police department. Moving on now to 20D. The Committee on Finance, to whom was referred an order that the city pay $20,000 from free cash to compensate Jose Bao for damages incurred at 392 High Street in conjunction with the Essex House collapse. Recommend that the order be approved. Councilors McGee, Tallman, Leahy, Bacon, and Lopez.
Motion to receive and adopt, pass first reading.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt. Under discussion, Councilor McGee.
As we know, when we took over the Essex House and all the problems that came with it, all the ancillary stuff that came along, as we saw with the hair salon now, this is another area that did sue us. Pursuant to it, they're agreeing to settle for $20,000. There's actually, I think, 1 or 2 more outstanding with regards to this. 2? Do you know? Yeah, 2 more. So this is slowly trying to get rid of all the problems with the Essex House.
Any thoughts, questions, comments? It's just so ripe for discussion, but we've already been over this. All in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Pass second reading.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting the financial transfer request. A no vote is to deny it.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Jourdain,
Yes.
Leahy, LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
By your vote, you've approved the transfer request for Mr. Bao. 20E. Committee on Finance, to whom was referred an order that they're hereby authorized and established to maintain in fiscal year 17 the Vacant Property Revolving Fund. Have considered the same. Recommend that this order be adopted. Councilors McGee, Tallman, Leahy, Bacon, and Lopez.
Prior to the motion, item number 3, or number 3 in this, shouldn't be Brian Fitzgerald. It was amended in committee to be the Board of Health Director.
Okay, so very good. So just a motion to amend to item 3 to say shall be the Board of Health Director.
Correct.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So move. So item 3 ends with shall be the Board of Health Director.
All right, so make a motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGee.
Yeah, this is from the Law Department. If you haven't met him yet, Paul Pear has been working on this. He's gone to several conferences on trying to figure out a way of dealing with vacant buildings and how to get them on the back on the tax roll as quick as possible. And this is one concept that he came up with and discussed several times with us in committee. I think this is the 3rd time we took it up with him. And it's really, we only allocate a certain amount into the budget, depending on the department, to deal with, dealing with properties with issues or then boarding them up. Here, the court process and the fees that come back to us, they go back into the general account, so they're always waiting for the next fiscal year to then attack the issue. here's a way of trying to receive those funds as they start coming in to then put in the account so they can just keep going after the properties. There was concern in a sense of we're segregating it and putting it into this kind of revolving fund. But as Bellamy pointed out, is every year the revolving fund comes up. If you don't like it anymore, you don't have to approve it, which then will force the money back into the general account. So this is a way of trying to tackle the problem. Paul did a phenomenal job with the committee, as well as coming up with a new way of trying to help deal with the issue. The end all is, if we don't see it working over time, every year we will see the revolving accounts, and we can always deny that one if we want to, if we don't like it anymore. So that's the catch-all.
Okay. Councilor McGivern.
Mr. President, I'll be voting against this tonight, not because of the intent of the department heads and what they do as department heads. It certainly is noble, and I think we all respect that. But this is not what a revolving account should be about. The taxpayers pay for each of the salaries of the city solicitor, the attorneys that are in the office, for the Board of Health, for the building commission, and so on. And the monies that are collected are monies that are part of their duties, not all of their duties, that in doing their duties as they are responsible for, the monies come in to pay for their salaries, to pay for the administrative costs, and to pay for what it takes to run that part of their departments. A revolving account, it sounds great to say that we can take the monies and use it right away, but it doesn't work like that. Essentially, if you vote for a revolving account for these monies, you're just voting to reduce free cash for next year, because the monies that come in that cannot be used under any circumstances eventually end up being part of what our free cash is about. I don't think we have accountability by doing this way. We're putting money up front. We're allowing an individual to make a decision and prioritize the decision, I should say, in terms of how these monies are used. Each year we know dollars are scarce and scarcer, and I think we have to know the big picture, look at the free cash, and then decide where we prioritize with the mayor that these dollars should be spent.
Comments, thoughts? Councilor Bacon?
I sort of came into this meeting with no horse in the race on this one, but I did find myself convinced by the arguments to try this as a new and different approach. And as we all know, we've had a chronic problem. And so if we bring new approaches and tools to addressing it, I think it's worth giving it a try.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, I've seen numerous, and I've heard numerous complaints about bills being sent out, and there's quite a few being contested now. And also, I think this kind of revolving fund, it sort of escalates that process of just going out there and trying to grab as much as you can unreasonably, and then making the owners come in and try and prove otherwise. And it encourages the whole prospect to put this money into an account that they don't have to come back and apply or give a justification or reason on how it's spent.
So you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think that's a bad thing.
Bad thing, okay. Councilor Bartley?
Well, I for one, am going to definitely vote in favor of this. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think this should be a priority. I've been working with Paul on several properties in several parts of the community, not just Ward 3, and I'm very much excited about some of the things, and several councilors here have really gotten behind this. So, talk about making an argument for the sake of argument, Mr. President. No accountability. Oh my God, this should be a priority. Is getting properties back online, getting them fixed up, and getting them back into paying taxes. So I think that's really what the bottom line is about. So to make some kind of a bizarre argument that this should be a priority. So, and I think that's what we're saying here, that this is a priority, and I really urge the council to get behind this and support it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to be? Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Bartley. It is very important, but the process isn't there yet, a decent process for this. The bills that I've seen sent out, and without singling out any particular parcel or group, is there's several buildings actively under demolition, where the owner is working on it, he's in the process, and he's received a fine of $3,000 for being actively tearing down or abating a building while he's in the process. This is harassment. It's not being given enough thought, and the committee, the group that makes up the vacant property committee, I think that needs some work. I think that needs some tweaking also.
Councilman McGivern, I thought I saw your hand up.
It was, because I don't know if I made the bizarre argument or if I have to repeat myself, but as I said up front, this has nothing to do with what these department heads do. I commend that, support that, and believe it is a priority within the big picture of what the city has to do in terms of providing services. When the budget comes, look at it this way. We may have money in this account to do this, as they are doing. It's not, we're not creating something here. We're just creating the way it's funded and the way the funds are available. We may have enough money in this account for them to continue to do what they're doing, but not enough money to pay their salary. And we have to make cuts into their budget because there's not enough money to pay what they need on a regular basis. That's the priority I'm talking about. Look at the big picture. Look at it totally and apply it together, then make a decision, is the only point I was trying to make.
Everyone who has wanted to weigh in on this has had an opportunity. Okay. Councilor Sullivan, does the City Council give Councilor Sullivan an opportunity to speak for a third time?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. No?
Well, I just
Motion carries. Councilor Sullivan, you have the floor.
Is inappropriate right now to make a motion to send this back to committee for further review?
No, it's not inappropriate to do that if you wanted to. So, okay, motion by Councilor Sullivan to send it back to Finance. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, would you like to convince us why we should do that?
I think I did that the first 2 times around.
Okay. You feel it needs more work and
I
more
don't want to
discussion.
repeat it all over for you. It's getting late.
Very good. Councilor Bresnahan, I saw first hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I think this is a good order, and I think we should pass it tonight. We collect upwards of $3,000 a year from some guy that owns a vacant building. I'm arguing with one property owner on the burnt-out building on Elm and Dwight Street, that multi-unit that had a fire a couple years ago. Right. They're charging them $3,000 right now for a vacant permit fee. I mean, that money goes back into the fund, and then we can board up the single-family home that the bank foreclosed on in somebody's neighborhood right next door to 2 occupied properties. I mean, we put $10,000. It used to be a long time ago when I was around. It used to be $10,000. That $10,000 would go like this. And these guys are desperate for work. I'd have 50 contractors knocking on the door looking to board up. I had somebody board up that old Sears building on the backside, the old Hoyok house that's now gone. I mean, there's hundreds of properties that need to be boarded up. I mean, we can take it out of this, or we can have the folks that own the gist of the vacant permit fee that was created years ago was for this exact reason, was to get money from vacant building owners and have us board them up and secure them by guys that know how to secure them, and then have the building department and the health department go make sure it was done and cut them a check. We were doing that. I mean, it was the kind of the receivership program in its infancy stage when the AG, Matt Burge, came out here from Boston. I mean, it's a good idea, and I think that the revolving fund is a good concept. The recycling bins of the revolving fund, that should go back to giving more recycling to more people, but that doesn't happen. I mean, we can try it. If it doesn't work out, which we've done hundreds of times, we just come back and we scrap it. We got a young attorney who's coming up with an idea that, that was the intention of the vacant building permit fee, was to collect money so we could go secure properties in other places. I think it's a good idea. You want to send it back to committee? I am going to vote against it. You want to vote on it tonight? Let's give it a shot. Why not? Thank you.
I agree with my colleague. Paul Payer sat here for about an hour, and I think we asked questions and we talked to the law department, and I think it's something that we got to look at. I think it's something that to get these houses boarded up, get these properties back on the tax rolls, and start bringing revenue into the city. So I'm I'm against sending this back to committee. I think we discussed it enough, and I'm willing to vote on it for tonight.
Just plain and simple. Ditto, I agree with my two colleagues. I will be voting against this going back to committee. I think we should vote it out.
Councilor McGivern, have permission of the body to speak.
Yes.
Yes.
1 minute.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. This is not going to change Paul Fair's job. This has nothing to do with the job he does, except when we put the budget together next year, are we going to have enough money for that budget to keep Paul Fair on? That's the question. Part of the money we use in a given, when the mayor puts the budget together and we look at it diligently in May and June, is the money that is available to fund the budget. If we keep taking away from the money that's available for next year before we even get to next year, we may not be able to pay for his salary. That's the point. This has nothing to do with the job he does. He does a great job. I agree. But that's this, whether we do this or not, that position will still be there if we have the monies to fund it. Why roll the dice ahead of time? Part of what we're talking about is salaries and expenses that are in the base budget. We have to respect that and protect the base budget and not divide up the entire budget before we even get it in May or June by committing to something before we know how much total revenue is available.
It's never going to be enough revenue.
Council President.
If I'm reading this wrong, please correct me. But what this reads to me is that if you own a vacant property and we charge you because it is vacant property per section 1835 of the ordinance, that money goes into a revolving fund. The Board of Health then has the right to disperse those funds to pay John the carpenter to go board up any property that's falling down. This has nothing to do with the salary. If this 1835, that ordinance didn't even exist, there would be no money. Right. That ordinance was set up for this exact purpose, to collect money from bad landlords that have vacant properties in the city of Holyoke and then turn that money over into board up other buildings. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking about charging Peter to pay Paul to board up a building. And it has nothing to do with salaries. If you own vacant property, you're supposed to pay the city of Holyoke a fee to have that vacant property within our town. That's what that's what this is saying. And I mean, so I think we're not even going to get the $50,000, let alone an attorney's salary. We're talking about 20, 30 grand, if that. The most you can charge per year is $3,000. So if you own a property for over 5 years, you're only getting 3 grand. Year 5, year 6, year 7, year 8. The first year, it's like $500. It's not a ton of dough, but it doesn't take a lot of money to board up a single-family house on Walnut Street.
Just two observations is we did in this put a cap that they may not expend more than $50,000 a year out of this fund. So that's one cap. Second cap is that this is only for the next 5 months. It has to be reauthorized every year. Just a couple points that you may want to consider. Councilor McGee has the floor.
That was one of my points, that it's for a limited period. And Joe does make a good point in the sense of any monies collected normally go into the general fund. You take the general fund and then pay salaries. It's a correct statement. The issue that we did vet in committee was, on average, if they're trying to do this, it's about $18,000 a year. That's what the average was at max. But we didn't put the cap for $50,000 because the premise behind this is, although it's a small portion coming back into the general fund, which then could go to salaries, this is to be very proactive in trying to deal with these problems, with these properties. If I allocate $10,000 in the budget to deal with this, then that's all I have. Paul's saying, look, I go out there, I spend the $10,000, I'm stuck for the year. Now money's coming into this revolving fund, I'm going to keep going. This kid's young and energetic. He's going to keep firing away. And if he brings in $50,000, good. That's his job. But it allows him to keep going. So here, once again, if we don't like it, if it's going to be too costly to the city, we can just say, you got to shut down the account and readdress it. Joe makes a good point. I'm not going to take that away from him. And so does Councilor Sullivan. This is just trying a new process, of which Paul even admitted, probably not the best one. but I'm trying to come up with something new. That's why my vote was to give this thing a chance and then hopefully, address the problem.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that's a good point. I think it's a scare tactic. I mean, by the way, this has got to go before the mayor, Mr. President. If this goes before the mayor and he thinks, do you think for a second he's going to sign his name knowing that, geez, I'm not going to be able to fund the position? Is Paul Perry going to come before us advocating for this, thinking, geez, my job could be in danger? It's such nonsense on its surface. Total scare tactic. This is a great idea. Let's give it a try. Thank you.
Councilor Lisi.
Thanks. I really do like the idea in general. I think that we should be taking a proactive approach to boarding up the vacant buildings and making them safe so that they are more easily addressed in rehabilitation, et cetera. However, to the point that Councilor McGivern is making, and I started my tenure here under, why am I forgetting his name? Brian.
Oh, Fitzgerald.
No, the auditor.
Oh, Brian Smith.
Brian Smith.
And Brian Smith was really adamant about not creating these separate revolving funds for exactly the purpose of making sure that we could fund our bottom line in our budget. So I think that the only thing missing from this ordinance is something that says that, so instead of spending, a cap at $50,000, anything beyond the $50,000 for the year would go into the general fund. I think that's something that we could build into this ordinance so that we're not continually funding this general fund and collecting and storing money away that we then can't access either for board ups or for the general budget, general fund. So I'm willing to support Councilor Sullivan's motion to send this back to committee. I think that's just one thing that wasn't considered. I think it's a really important point that we shouldn't just be storehousing money away in a revolving fund that we can't access because we're maxing out receipts and then we're continuing to collect funds in there. I'd like to see some threshold at which the money does get turned over to the general fund.
Okay. On the motion. Does Councilor Sullivan have permission of the body to speak for a fourth time?
No.
Sorry, Mike. That did not adopt. That did not pass.
Dan got one more than me.
I only spoke twice.
On the motion.
Okay, so let's just be clear on what the motion is. Councilor Sullivan had a motion that was seconded to send it to finance, back to committee, okay? So we're going to vote on that first. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Pretty overwhelmingly, it appears, no on that. And so now we're left back to the main motion, which is to, we're at first reading of adopting 20E. Okay? All in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Pass the second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Is there any discussion? It actually is a new item, so you can technically vote, speak again if you wanted to. I probably shouldn't say that, but I will.
say it.
I will.
I can
I
already
want to
see-
be fair.
I can already see where the vote's heading. So
Okay. All right. just by way of full transparency.
Yeah.
Without further ado, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to adopt 20E. A no vote is to deny 20E.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie? Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy? LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
$11 yeas, 3 nays.
By your vote, you have approved the authorization of that fund. 20F. 20F is a report from the Committee on Finance, to whom is referred an order that the settlement for Maria Ferrer be paid immediately from the remaining unused portion of the demolition bond for the former Essex House. The City Council approved $1.5 million, and to date approximately $1.26 has been spent, leaving a balance of $240,000.
Can we take up 20F, G, H, I, and J as a package?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, second.
20F, G, H, and I, and J, all as a package, and these are all denials ultimately. All in favor with abbreviated reading. All in favor of that?
Not G. G's not in there. G's
Not
not
G,
in
Oh,
there.
not G.
F, H,
Okay.
I, and J. Sorry.
Suspend the rules to have 20 F, H,
I and J.
I, and J. No G.
No G.
With abbreviated reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Continuing with my reading, this settlement is an expense for the demolition. Interest payment for use of bond funding is far less than the revenue lost by using stabilization funds. 20F is recommended for denial by all 5 members of the committee. H is to a financial transfer of $270,205 from stabilization fund to claims and damages. That's recommended for denial by everyone. 20I is also from finance, refer to financial transfer of $142,986 from 2013 bond interest to claims and damages. That's recommended for denial by all the 5 members of finance. And lastly, J is from the Committee on Finance, to whom was referred a financial transfer, a request of $100,000 from bond principal to health insurance, life insurance, and FICA. Have considered the same, recommend that the order be denied all 5 members of finance.
Motion to receive, adopt, pass the first reading, to deny.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee reports, to pass their first reading on denial. Under discussion?
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
We've already
Some of this stuff has already been taken care of. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Pass the second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to support the committee recommendation on all these, which is to deny. If you actually, so that means no money. If a no vote would be to approve these funds. So just vote accordingly. So yes is to support the committee recommendation for denial on all of these. Clerk will call the roll.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tolman,
Yes.
Fagan,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy, LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Mr. President.
14 yeas.
By your vote, you've approved all those committee recommendations. Councilor Bacon.
If the city council would indulge me, I have located an item from our January 24th meeting that may be time sensitive.
Okay.
The committee voted on it to deny a zone change request.
Oh,
It
that's
did not
Mr. Ryan's.
appear-
How did that not get on the
It
agenda?
did not appear on the agenda. I think there was some confusion as to whether the owner was withdrawing. But in order for us to take action on it, we would need to take it out of committee because it's not on the agenda. But the committee did act on it.
Make a motion to remove from committee the agenda item referenced by
Second.
Councilor Bacon.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Do you have the item?
The item was item 19. It was the zone change application of James Ryan. Now, I just have it in my hand for the moment because between the time the committee met and now, the owner has submitted.
A letter withdrawing.
Yes.
I'll just read that. Thank you.
I just didn't want to miss a time.
That's right. Yeah, this is time sensitive. Okay. So motion on the floor was just adopted, sounded like unanimously, to remove from committee an item related to the zone change request of James Ryan to be located at 228 Sargent Street.
Right. So my motion would be to accept the communication from the petitioner to withdraw the request for the zone change.
Okay. So the committee had voted, and I was there present, and I voted also to deny. The vote was unanimous to deny the zone change request. I believe he was requesting a BL zone. He's R2 zoned currently. And there were reasons stated as to why that was, and that should have been on the agenda for this meeting. For whatever reason, it's not. And so now, having withdrawn it from committee, that is correct. That and I know Mr. Ryan had sent me this communication as well, and I know I did forward it to the clerk. Let me read that letter and communication from him now. It's very brief. To Holyoke City Council from 228 Sergeant LLC James Ryan, RE zone change request. At this time, we would like to formally withdraw our zone change request for the property we own at 226 230 Sergeant Street in Holyoke. Understanding any future use for the first floor space will be subject to approval of a special permit, we are comfortable withdrawing. I want to thank all that have afforded us their time and attention with this matter. Regards, James Ryan. So I think we want to make one a motion to receive his withdrawal letter. I would like to ask that this communication be put. Is this a late file communication? Probably not. I would like to ask that this communication be entered into the record here as a late file communication to the City Council, number one. And so without objection, all in favor of that?
Second.
Oh, so moved. So this will be a late file. So what's the last late file order we have marked? C? Okay. So this will mark this late file D. Motion to suspend the rules to take up late file D at this time and take final action on late file D. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, so moved. I've just read to you late file D. That we then attach late file D in light of D, that we I think it would be appropriate for the chair to make a motion to accept the withdrawal notice of the applicant and to allow make a motion to allow leave to withdraw of the application at the request of the petitioner based on late file communication.
I believe that is the motion
D.
I did make.
Okay, good.
Mr. President, we could add without prejudice.
Without prejudice.
Right.
Okay. So
I'm not sure if it was seconded.
right. So so we've now have late file communication D. We have the actual application itself and the petition that we've removed from committee. The motion on the floor is to recognize the withdrawal letter, and that there was a motion on the floor to grant the withdrawal of his zone change application without prejudice. And that motion was made and seconded. Any discussion further? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote on that. Okay? So all in favor of allowing this petition to be withdrawn without prejudice at the request of the petitioner, as aforementioned late file D, the clerk will call the roll.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Thank you, everyone.
Unanimous vote.
Good catch, Counselor. Okay, so that took care of that. And that now brings us to 20G. The Committee on Finance, to whom was referred an order that the City Council invite the Superintendent and Building Relocation Committee to get an update on the process, have considered the same, recommend that the order be complied with. Councilors McGee, Tallman, Leahy, Bacon, and Lopez.
Motion to receive and adopt the committee report that it's complied with.
Yep.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report that the matter has been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor McGee.
Yeah, I'll make it quick because still give you time to review it. Everyone should have received the email from Ryan. If you haven't, let me know. Dr. Reich, Anthony Soto, and other members of the committee came in to address the Finance Committee and gave a list of options that they saw with regards to 57 Suffolk Street. Within there were 8 options. One option that they did come up and tell us about is that they were able to renegotiate the contract with the owner of the building from the $300,000+ down to half, so $150,000, which then would allow them to move from the 5th floor to the 1st floor and the 3rd floor. So they can cut their rent in half. That's one option, and then all the other ones of buying buildings or moving to other buildings. And there are actually a little more other options within options if you read everything. So with that, Finance said that having them come in, giving us all the details, that order is complied with. Now for us is to see what we want to do. Do we make a recommendation to that committee or what have you? I know they're going to have a meeting next Tuesday in order to go over all the options and ultimately make a recommendation to the city council if that's what we would like. So they're doing their due diligence as we required them to do when we had the big budget debate. So now it's kind of back to what would we like them to do or look at, or if you want an overall recommendation, we are meeting on Tuesday to hopefully get you something of that nature.
Okay. One of the items was to, as I mentioned to Dr. Zreich, was to actually have a deal in place relative to 57 Suffolk Street. Right. Because we don't want to be in a situation where we're talking about we'd like to have, approve the remaining 6 months of rent that I think they're going to be looking for at some point, on the hope and the promise that we'll put together, a deal, but that we'd like the actual deal to be there to actually purchase, if that's what the one, and it sounds like that's going to be one of the recommendations, or there's a certain school of thought leaning towards that, which I like that idea, by the way, but is to actually take some action on 57 Suffolk Street so that we're approving the money for them to have the rent for the remainder of the year as a transition, but come July 1st or whatever day they're going to consummate the sale, that's a done deal. And I explained that to him, so they're hoping to have those pieces together, because I believe already there's been the appraisal, there's already been a structural review of the building. There's a lot of the pieces in place, so there's going to need to be negotiations over the number, and I would assume the mayor's office is handling that.
So this is complied with.
Very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We didn't have any public safety, public service, development and government relations, charter and rules, or joint committee reports for this particular meeting, which now brings us to motions, orders, and resolutions. We're to item 26. Item 26 is from Councilor Roman.
Mr. President, could we do abbreviated reading, and if things are going to committee, just make sure we limit discussion?
Yes, thank you. So motion to suspend the rules to just move these things along with suggestions to either we're adopting and referring or just sending them into committee. We're going to have very limited discussion unless, something's extremely controversial here. So all in favor of suspending the rules for that purpose? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Councilor Roman filed an order that says the following: that the mayor, chief of staff, treasurer, auditor, law department provide a full list of nonprofits that expressed interest in administering or overseeing the mayor's fire victims fund. Furthermore, that the selectors provide a written selection process of how the Chamber Centennial Foundation was ultimately selected.
DGNR with a copy to all the individuals listed.
Okay, motion on the floor is to send to DGNR with copies of this order to all mentioned parties in the order. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 27. Introduced by Councilor Roman. Hayes and Paper be recognized for outstanding contributions to the City of Holyoke and the nation, congratulating them on their recent production of Super Bowl 51 program. Adopt?
Yep.
Motion on the floor is to adopt.
Adopt.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, opposed? So moved. Councilor Tallman?
Could I just add my name onto that, Mr. Roman?
Of course you can. Everyone can.
I want to
Here.
I want to thank Hayes and Paper too for donating 2 Super Bowl 51 programs to the Postal Service, and I happen to win one of those programs.
Oh, really?
And before the game even started, I gave it to my son-in-law because he's a big Pats fan. I sort of wish I hung on to it, but it will be worth something someday, hopefully. Yeah.
There you go. Adding Councilor Tallman as a co-sponsor, that was adopted. Item 28, introduced by Councilors Sullivan and Jourdain, that a complete review of Chapter 42, Fire Prevention and... Hold on, the order just dropped. Okay. Can't have that. Hang in there. Meeting's almost over. All right.
Stay up there.
All right. That a complete review of Chapter 42, Fire Prevention and Protection, be undertaken. The many sections are outdated or need to be reviewed and updated. Subsections are being ignored or circumvented. Article 3, which deals with the actual composition, staffing, benefits of the department, is vague at best, etc., and other purposes. Motion to send that to ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Number 29. Number 29 is an order introduced by Councilor Sullivan that no section of the Code of Ordinances be conceded by any negotiation agent of the City of Holyoke without the consent of the council. The laws of the City of Holyoke are not bargaining chips that can be used by either side in contract negotiations. Motion to send to ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 30, introduced by Councilor Sullivan. The Board of Health take immediate enforcement action against the Roman Catholic Diocese of Springfield to clean and prevent further accumulation of avian fecal matter. I'm not allowed to say the next two words.
Abbreviated reading.
Yes, how about deletion of those two words? How about that? Motion on the floor to receive and to amend to take those two words out in parentheses. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We do have certain orders of decorum here. And in the Mater Della Rosa Church, the material is a serious respiratory threat and breeding ground for maggots and other fungus. What would you like us to do with this?
Public safety, copy to Board of Health.
Okay, motion to send to Public Safety with a copy to the Board of Health. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Item 31. Item 31 is introduced by Councilor Sullivan that the Board of Health or building inspector take immediate enforcement action against the Roman Catholic Diocese of Springfield to take necessary measures to prevent the growth of white mold in the Mater Della Rosa Church. This fungus is not only a serious respiratory threat, but it also accelerates the deterioration of valuable historical artifacts. Public Safety with copy to Board of Health.
Board of Health, building inspector, and Historic Commission.
Okay. So a motion on the floor is to send to Public Safety with a copy to the Board of Health, the Historic Commission, and the Building Commissioner. Councilor McGivern.
The copies that we're referring to the department heads, can we make sure they're stamped copy and that we have not voted on them?
Yeah, stamped copy. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Packaged them, Sully. Little package right there. You could have packaged them.
Item 32, introduced by Councilor Sullivan, that Mark DuPont, Russ Sprague of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Springfield and their agent, Barry Engineers, be invited to answer questions of public safety regarding Mater Della Rosa Church and Rectory. Send to Public Safety.
Yep.
Motion on the floor is to send to Public Safety. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 33, introduced by Councilor Bacon, that the fire alarm system shall be directly connected to the fire department for any residential building 3 stories or greater with 4 or more units. Ordinance.
Can I add my name to that one?
Adding Councilor Lisi.
Myself, please.
Yeah, adding Councilor LeBron Martinez.
Valentine.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to send to ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Take up 34 to 37 as a package.
Okay, motion on the floor is to take 34 through 37 as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
These are all constituent requests. I'm requesting they go to ordinance.
Okay.
Second.
Motion on the floor is to take items 34 through 37, which are various handicap parking spaces being removed. This is 144 Linden, 179 Beach, 189 Beach, and there's also a no parking space issue at 138 Linden. Motion on the floor is to send 34 through 37 to the Ordinance Committee with a copy also to the Disabilities Commission for 35 through 37. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 38 is introduced by Councilor Bartley that the G&E install necessary streetlights on Chestnut between Franklin and Appleton. This is a very dark stretch of road and will be a welcome improvement, especially in light of the proposed housing development.
Receive, adopt, refer to gas and electric.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, refer to the Gas and Electric Department. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 39 is introduced by Councilor Bartley, that the Park and Rec Department consider fixing or replacing Crozier Field water fountain. Please see if this can be added to our FY18 budget unless funds are available this spring. The fountain has been a nice amenity, but right now it's an eyesore.
Receive, adopt, refer to Parks Department.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, and refer to Parks. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 40. Item number 40 is introduced by Councilor Barley, that the DPW repair the sidewalks at 31 Washington and 74 Lawler. Both are trip hazards.
Receive, adopt, refer to DPW, or a copy to Public Safety, please.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, refer to the DPW with a copy to Public Safety. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 41 is introduced by Councilor Barley. The City Council extended an invitation to the Hoyok St. Patrick's Parade Committee, including the President, Board, members, award winners, colleagues, to our March 7th City Council meeting.
Receive, adopt.
Receive, adopt, and refer to the Administrative Assistant, and we'll send the invite. He's already been notified to send the invite to Mike Moriarty, the Parade President.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, and refer to the Administrative Assistant to effectuate this invitation for all parties involved for March 7th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 42, introduced by Councilor Barley. DPW remove handicap parking sign in front of 99 Carlton.
I guess that goes to ordinance.
Yeah,
Ordinance
CC
with a copy to
disabilities.
disabilities. Motion on the floor is to send to ordinance with a copy to the Disabilities Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 43, 44 already taken care of, which now brings us to item number 45. Item number 45 was introduced by Councilor Lopez. Ordinance Committee created an ordinance requiring the mayor to provide any financial burden to the city when entering or allowing a private company contract to use any city buildings or facilities. Motion on the floor is to send to ordinance.
Yes.
Second.
Motion on the floor is made and seconded to send to ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 46 is introduced by Councilor McGee, that the G&E install a light pole at a light on pole number 11 on Nonotuck Street. Receive, adopt, and send to the G&E.
Is it a copy to the mayor?
Second.
Sure. Motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, refer to the Gas and Electric Department with a copy to the mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 47. Item number 47 is introduced by Councilor McGee. The City Council recommend the school department to move their offices from 4 floors to 2 floors in order to reduce their lease payments.
Send to finance.
Motion has been made and seconded to receive, refer to finance, adding Councilor Bacon as a co-sponsor, and Councilor Lopez.
I'd like to be added to that too.
And Bresnahan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 48, introduced by Councilor McGee. Order that the City Council post all subcommittee minutes online as soon as they are approved.
Receive and adopt.
Motion's been made and seconded. Receive, adopt, refer to the administrative assistant to effectuate this. Putting it in the City Council minutes. You're probably going to have to put it on that line unless we have another part of the page that you can do. But you have the minutes published, right? So it's just a matter of putting them online. Okay, it's a good order. Motion has been made and seconded. Receive, adopt, and refer to the administrative assistant for enforcement. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
49 and 50 to finance.
Motion on the
See you
floor
as
has been
back.
made and seconded to receive item number 49, which is a transfer of $6,000 from election officers to various office supplies and education training in the clerk's office. Item number 50 is the acceptance of the Shannon Community Safety Initiative grant. This would be for the police department. Motion on the floor is to send 49 and 50 both to finance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Any late files left?
Did the late?
There are
Motion
no
to
further
adjourn.
orders before us. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. We stand adjourned.